Okay, so we're gonna jump into this. There is no title. There's no clever introduction. There's nothing, because this is just us talking about Cyberpunk. Because we had a lot of feelings about it, and most of them negative. Um, and so we're just gonna get it all out. This is uwucos. I am a NorCaliber community organizer and general video game player. And joining me today.
I'm Bigpapachunk. Kind of, I guess, the same credentials as that. I mean, I play video games. I host Soul Calibur weeklies online now, and I usually would host Soul Calibur the locals for NorCal. And I mostly use Twitter exclusively for Hololive content.
Very important.
Hi, I'm Peanuts. I have no credentials. I just play a lot of games, and consequently, I sleep a lot less. So that's me.
Yeah, under no pretenses does the fact that we run Soul Calibur events make us more or less qualified to talk about how much we didn't enjoy Cyberpunk 2077. I do want to make that clear off the bat.
I just become so used to this. Like, that's just a part of me now. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm one of the Soul Calibur dudes. That's just my thing. Yeah, you know.
Dude, I put that in my work introduction. People are like, what does this mean that you're a community organizer for this game?
Just don't worry about it.
In any case, so here we are. This, I think, came around because normally what I would do if I had strong feelings about a game like this is that I would write a review on my old WordPress where I used to review anime and games and such. And then I realized that like there was so much we had discussed just chatting on our own about it and had so many feelings about it that it just wasn't conducive to writing. It was going to be really long. I was like, all right, why don't we just, I think BPC suggested, like, why don't we just hop on a podcast and talk about it? So this is that. Maybe we'll do more of these in the future.
This is his brainchild.
Yeah.
He's like 10-second brainchild.
We're just going to scrub our brains clean of this game, which at least get our feelings out. Of course, this title is something that's just been all over the media for however many years now and will continue to be. We just, even in the lead up to this podcast, we saw there were several articles released, big announcements, patches, all this stuff. So this definitely is kind of an ongoing story, but we want to mostly dive in and really maybe explain our experiences, both with the hype and everything surrounding it, and then also playing the game. We've all pretty much played a good chunk of time, which we'll get into later. But yeah. So, before we dive into maybe the nitty-gritty of the games itself, I really think we can't even discuss this title without talking about the pre-release hype, which I think we can safely say, right? Like, there's never been a game with this much hype. We saw a trailer, and they talked about it in 2013, where they notoriously said it'll be released when it's ready. Very ominously so.
Aged like fucking milk, that one.
Yeah, exactly. And then we got the gameplay reveal later in 2018. Depending on who you ask, the development didn't actually start officially until 2016. Something we found out, this was published before, but it came up again recently, that they even got a stipend from the Polish government for this title, which is like,
yeah, I think they got one for Witcher 3 too.
I didn't even know that's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Polish government got some gamers, dude.
Apparently so. Yeah, it says granted by the National Center for Research of Development. So not research and development, but you're researching of development. Yeah, and it was not amounts to about 7 million USD. So they got a fat chunk of money, and that. Here's what the proposals were on why they should get this money. They were going to have a live city creation, was really important.
Oh yeah, that's in the game.
Okay, that kind of made it into the game. We'll of course touch on that more later. Cinematic feel. That's a very.
I still don't understand what the hell is that supposed to mean?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's pretty subjective, right? But okay, it's supposed to have a cinematic feel. Animation excellence. Let's just say right now they didn't really do that, but that was the goal. And get this. Seamless multiplayer. Was one of their proposals.
Well, it's funny because now the multiplayer, like I think they did talk about how they wanted to do like integrated multiplayer, but then now it's like a completely separate thing, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, no one's itching to play the multiplayer when they can't even play the game itself without it crashing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We found another article too that the development was rebooted multiple times. So
What a
it's pretty
surprise.
clear this game wasn't being worked on right from 2013 when we
Yeah.
saw the trailer. Right? It probably started sometime later, and I don't want to say it's like an excuse, but it is something that you see often for these bigger titles, right? That yeah, it changed director multiple times, and then it
Yeah.
led to a lot of issues. I think most recently, remember Mass Effect Andromeda? Didn't they have that issue where that's why it was so confusing? Was like, oh, they changed leadership,
Yeah,
and
like
no one knew
so
what
many-
the game was going to be.
So many of the of just the BioWare leads just dropped out like mid development and stuff.
Right. So it's kind of a similar story here, and maybe similarly disappointing releases, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's
And so-
that's always. I mean, that's always a big problem. Like, yeah, with just within the gaming experiences. I mean, just for me, either like other studios and other things I always hear is. I mean, it's like part of it is like that tech culture, where it's like you're never like no one ever really wants to be at one job really for any like large significant chunk of time. It's just like long enough to have done something to be like happy with and put your name on, and then you move on to somewhere else where they'll pay you more to do like the exact same thing. So like
that is
I'm
the
not
goal, yeah.
yeah, so yeah, this
For many.
exactly. So like this concept where it's like if something's just not going your way, you just quit and go somewhere else because there's almost always someone who's going to hire you to do something.
Yeah.
Especially
And
at like that lead position, like you already have those requirements that every opening job description always says. It's like, oh yeah, I must have like 20 years experience and be a senior dev already, and oh yeah,
Right.
you're gonna be cleaning the toilets. That's what you're gonna be doing.
Yeah, these are the few people that actually can cross stuff as requirements.
Yeah, so like the ability of all these leads just to hop around and do basically whatever they want and just basically have little to any or like no sort of like commitment or like real reason to want to push through some things. I mean, kind of makes sense. And
Yeah,
then
but it-
also, who knows, like what other factors might have been pushing him away, like the higher ups above them, like forcing or asking for other stuff, or I don't know, who knows.
Yeah, I guess it's just for big games and titles like this, though. As much as that makes sense, it's definitely unfortunate if you have someone at the leadership who maybe has the vision and like the creative goals in line for the game, and then they leave, and it's hard to pass that along. So whether that's what happened with Cyberpunk or not,
Or worse, the new person comes in and then just completely changes that full direction.
right,
Yeah.
that they don't have no intention of keeping it intact.
Yeah.
Hard to say with this game. I don't know if there's really enough information as to whether that was what was going on, but it's clear that I guess the bottom line is the leadership and the staff was not that solid.
We
Um,
the thing with the BioWare ones is because those guys were like big name dudes like in the
Right.
industry.
Right.
So like and like the one, CDPR like they don't have anyone to like to really flex. So it's we don't know whether or not they did have any like staff changes mid development. I mean, I'm sure there have been. Like I think I've heard a lot of stories of like just CDPR being almost like a revolving door.
Mm.
But that was like for like low end developers or something, or like the just the devs. So I don't know like writing staff or anything like that. But I'm sure. I don't know.
Yeah, hard to say because that's all like company side private stuff that they're not gonna ever really talk about or release. So
Yeah, mostly this article was just more that that there was some sort of reboot in place,
Yeah.
since it was started.
But yeah. So yeah, anyway, bottom line is just the current state of this game upon release and where we're currently at now, based on probably just that single fact alone, at least for me, makes like perfect sense. Like explains
Yeah.
like 8,000 things about what happened in that game and what we'll get into more detail later.
Yeah.
That's always I don't know. That's just always a big significant kind of thing I would sort of like harp on. And that was basically my guess even before this article was brought to my face. It was like this game like feels like it changed like leadership hands like 20 times.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that is a common thing though, to be honest. Like just like in pre-development, you just get ideas just mashed out and stuff. So we don't know when exactly, quote unquote, development was rebooted multiple times.
Yeah.
And it's crazy though, because this article is posted in 2018, and maybe it was kind of a diamond in the rough. It's on GamePro, which is not a site I'm familiar with. But I think in 2018 that wasn't the prevailing message, right? So maybe some people heard that there were some grumblings behind the scene, but 2018 was when they first did the gameplay footage, and that was when I think the hype was really taking off for this game. So if we're talking about pre-release, like even if things were tumultuous behind the scenes, this was when the hype started to pick up, right? Like this is when they did the little dramatic gameplay demo.
Yeah, like the 43-minute one.
Yeah, the longer ones, and then after that, they were pretty consistent in having a lot more footage, right? Like just that was the start of it, and they kept going. They kept pumping out all this hype. So,
I mean, to be honest, I don't even know if they released like any real gameplay footage that wasn't just the beginning part. Like I can't off the top of my head.
No gameplay, but there was like sort of cutscenes. I remember seeing a cutscene of, and this is something that happens later on in the game, but when you're like confronted
Spoilers.
by Dex, like in the hotel, it doesn't really tell you the context of that, but that you're talking to these dudes in a hotel and that it's very tense. And then I specifically remember that you see V like rub blood off his face in the mirror. But that was done totally with like cutscene graphics. It wasn't done with actual
Yeah, it was like
gameplay.
it was like that cinematic trailer, right? Like the one that was like completely CG.
Yeah, exactly. That was pretty long though, and that was separate from the previous gameplay trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got a lot more content like that. Basically, the response to that initial gameplay trailer with the dramatic voice guy who's going to show you how to use the mantis blades.
Wait, was on walls.
Was it also the same one that had the big wake the fuck up samurai scene?
Yeah.
That spoiler isn't actually in the fucking game anyway.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I'm like, I'm not sad about, but.
Yeah, so that was definitely a big part of it too. Is once they finally dropped that Keanu Reeves was going to be in it, then it was more hype on a train that was already well rolling. So we got some other articles, and these are all around 2018. So that was definitely when the game started to build up. And before we move on, we did want to make a note. There were definitely some sour points in the pre-release hype that I think were pretty undeniable. I remember myself, as excited as I was about the game, this stood out to me. So we mentioned that people had articles about the development struggles, but even in the marketing, there were some cracks. I guess we could say some cracks starting to show. The biggest one being the ugly approach they had with some of the transphobic comments and other issues. So for those who aren't familiar, for one, there was an image of an ad, and it was like the Mix It Up soda, and it's just a very feminine woman with a very obvious bulge. And people were pretty upset. Like, this is pretty offensive representation of trans people and things like that, like overly sexualizing it and all the issues that we see today. And people were quick to point out, like, this is a cyberpunk game. Usually, if you're talking about the transhumanism, which they even said is part of the game, that you're able to install human parts into your body and all this stuff, to have a sort of offensive and very, we'll say, gender binary type representation of gender is really unfortunate. And I think maybe we can talk about that a bit. I mean, not only did that happen, but their response to it wasn't very good, right? So
I think they tried to defend themselves by saying, like, it's in the other article, the Polygon one. They said, like, it was to show that, like, the world is commercializing, like, trans people or something. And, like, that was part of the themes of the...
No, yeah, exactly. They try to write off as, like, oh, no, we're not, like it's like, it's them using like this transhuman, like transgender bad representation as, like, a marketing ploy. Like, they're really, really bad at doing that. And, like, I'm just sitting there, like, there's too much irony flowing out of your mouth for you to, like, like, how are you not realizing the words coming out of your mouth and the irony of all of this? But then and then as the things come on, you're like, oh, they really are just that fucking ignorant about it.
Right, and that's the bottom line. We got a lot of that. So then whoever remember also that the Twitter account and their Twitter account was very much I'd say the modern style where they're making snarky comments and
Yeah.
memes and stuff. And so they made a "Did you assume my gender?" joke, which it was a mess because first off, I mean this was 2018. It's still we're way past making those stupid "lol you assume their gender" jokes.
It's like
And
the it's
then
like the
when they
one.
apologized for it, then people got mad too. That oh no, the SJWs are running this Twitter account. They're gonna ruin the game. This one too. Yeah, it's a GOG,
it's
which
like-
is the main storefront. They said our game's hashtag won't be erased,
Yeah,
Oh my god.
that one was wild.
and that was trending because of something that President Trump said. So that's not and that was also regarding gender and things like that. So it's just like really, really insensitive of that. I think also worth noting is that they allowed someone who cosplayed that character from the ad with the bulge. She like won their cosplay contest, which is like
Oh yeah, I saw
if
that
you're
picture.
ironically putting this ad in there, like it's showing the nasty side of it. I'm like, why would you choose? Oh well, that's a great cosplay of the offensive dick bulge lady.
Yeah, they're like literally doing the thing that they said that like in game, like commercializing and fetishizing like trans people.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's what I think BPC was alluding to. It's like they're claiming that it's supposed to be in universe, but they're just doing it IRL.
Yeah.
No,
They're
yeah,
promoting it that
exactly.
way.
Like they are the exact same evil like bad company in the game, but they're just doing it now in real life.
Right.
And I was
In
like,
real life, in a society where it's already so rare to get any positive trans representation, and
like yeah, exactly. Like, bro, how the fuck are you not like? Are you listening as you speak? Like, I guess maybe sometimes it is kind of hard to like really comprehend what you're saying sometimes in the moment when you're on the spot and nervous and some things. Like, okay, yeah, I get it. But
yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. And I think we can jump ahead a little bit and just say that now that the game is out, we know that they definitely really either whether it was ignorance or just straight up transphobia, like the game itself, now that we've played it, doesn't really alleviate those concerns, right? So people were right off the bat noting that you have to play male or female, and even though you don't pick like MF at the character select, but you can pick a voice, and then your voice dictates these pronouns, so you can only be he with a masculine voice or she with a feminine voice.
So fucking bad, man. That's like
Yeah.
like the weakest Band-Aid fix.
Yeah, and so it's really not. I mean, it's just it's a super down the gender binary there, and then you can choose your V's genitalia. It doesn't really have any impact on the game, and so some people are trying to be like, oh well, see, you can be trans because you can just have one voice and body, but and like
it's not how it fucking
totally
works.
not understanding how it
Yeah.
works. Like, yeah, that's not like, oh, it's a trans character because you just slapped a dick on this feminine looking woman. Like, that's not how it works at all. That's actually the opposite. We're right back at the ad, basically, if that's going to be the trans representation. And then the last sort of nugget is that there is actually a canonically trans character in the game. And I wanted to say at first that the representation was good and that it wasn't really brought up for a while. I just noticed this character had the trans flag on their car, and I was like, oh, that's cool, I guess. But then eventually this character pissed me off, and it ended up like just being like it was about dealing with their own inner demons and things they've been through, and it was just like they ended up being like a nasty person who was not really that well fleshed out, and I was like, it was just,
I mean, I will at least give point that it's like, again, the fact that they were trans never really became a huge point or like plot like thing anywhere along their actual storyline. It was just like, you see the trans flag, you're like, oh, I know what that is. That's interesting. Wait, are they? Because you wouldn't necessarily really notice or assume anything at first, and then you go along, and then all of a sudden, like, you build up enough trust, and she admits to you, it's like, oh yeah, and then blah, my husband, and I had like transition surgery, yada, yada, and then it goes like, oh, okay, so I guess that confirms it, and then it just keeps going on, and then you're just like, oh wait, you're just actually a fucking piece of shit.
that's the thing is like it just felt kind of nasty. And like, don't get me wrong, right? Like, it's not that I wanted a trans character to just be an angel and to save everyone or whatever, but it just, given everything that's happened, the fact that like the one trans character in the game, first off, eventually it does become kind of important because you learn that all this like backstory stuff is related to her partner, but then just like the nastiness of it's like it kind of reminded me like in other, these generic action movies where there's like a team of white badass dudes and then there's like a generic POC guy and then he always dies first. Kind of felt like that.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so that was just, I guess, another big thing, right? Like, there was a lot of buzz about that. And to the point where people were like, this kind of proves this game is not going to be very cyberpunk. Like, if you can't even get the gender stuff right, like, I don't trust this title. I don't want to support it.
If fucking Tony Hawk's Pro Skater can do a better job, like, again, I'm stealing this one. I'm stealing this one from Uwu, but he can explain it better. But he literally pointed out because he's played. Which one is this? Underground?
No, the new one is.
Oh, it's the new one.
The remakes, right?
Remake.
Yeah, the new remake. Literally,
piece Vicarious Visions.
Yeah, you don't choose gender. You don't choose anything. There's hairstyles, there's clothing, and then you can adjust some body shapes, and that's about it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, that is how the character creation works in that game. It's a little easier when there's not a bajillion lines of recorded dialogue, to be fair. But
true.
You can pick a face, you can pick hairstyles, you can pick clothes, you can pick voices even, and none of them have any gender applied. It's just like voice 1, 2, or 3. Some of them definitely sound more feminine or masculine than others, but the game doesn't really label them as such.
Yeah.
It could have been that easy. It could have been that
exactly.
easy.
And I get it, right? Like, it's a little bit different that so many people talk to V and stuff that V's pronouns are going to use a lot more than your skater who just is alone by themselves and getting hype over cool tricks that they've done. But yeah, it's exactly right. It shows that it's possible, and that just wasn't the case here.
Yeah.
Even with the like double recorded dialogue thing, like they could have just tried to write a lot more gender neutral language, and then that would have just saved like having to re-record the lines twice.
I mean,
right.
yeah, it's also, I mean, it's part of, one of those. I mean, they already went through all the effort, again, of planning all the dialogue and figuring out what the branching parts are, doing I mean, one for male, one for female, and doing it could be one of those things where, I mean, just if you just plan it outright and just be like, all right, we need you to say it with this pronoun and then with this pronoun, like, I mean, if you want to do it simple and easy, you just do it 3 basics, just male, female, and then like a more neutral pronouns.
Yeah.
And it's really just one extra set of a lot of things. And like, I feel like, again, if you just actually had like just some thought into it and just put some effort, it probably wouldn't be that bad. And honestly, not really cost you that much extra. It mainly just comes down to like the actual planning phase and figuring it all out first.
Which we know the planning was kind of.
Well, well, fuck me, right? Yeah.
No, but you're right. I think you're right. I don't think it had to be a resource thing, right? We're back at like, was it Ubisoft? It's like we didn't put women in because it's too much effort, too many resources.
Oh fuck, right.
and I don't think that's the case. I think I totally agree with you, right? Even the fact that your voice has to match your pronouns, like it would have been so easy. Like, why not? You should be able to have a V with a more masculine voice who has long hair or whatever, and then maybe said V wants to have feminine pronouns. Like, you should have that kind of freedom, or maybe not. Like, all this stuff. None of these things should be connected, right? Like, not only just to represent society as it is, that you, regardless of how you sound, look, you should be able to be called the pronouns you want, but especially when you can put a fucking gun in your arm and all this stuff, and it's like, we're still going to enforce the gender binary, even though supposedly our game is going to explore transhumanism and the fact that your body is not so important to what you are in reality.
Yeah, spoiler alert, they did not really explored as much as they say that they were that they were going to.
That's why I say it like that.
Deus Ex does more of that than fucking Cyberpunk does.
Yeah, like, I mean, I've been playing Deus Ex, and that's like literally the plot is fucking transhumanism. Like every single fucking ebook, every single fucking like newspaper article or whatever, every piece of dialogue is just transhumanism.
Nanomachines.
And it's like,
that's Metal Gear Solid.
No, that's also Deus Ex.
Oh, it is. Yeah, okay. It is a little bit both. There's a little bit.
at least in the first game.
I don't remember
But
that. Oh, anyways,
I don't want to derail too much.
yeah, I don't want to jump into fucking Deus Ex too much, but yeah, like I think what it is like it's just lack of focus, like.
It's just they're. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say Deus Ex just tells such a focused story, and like has really focused themes, but like Cyberpunk is just all over the place, and like I think that kind of calls back to like the development being rebooted multiple times. Like it just seems like they didn't have like a singular vision or like a singular direction to follow, and now lack of planning and all that shit, and
Yeah. Because I mean, even like preparing for this, like going back and watching that original like reveal trailer where you see like the bulletproof girl with the mantis blade just kind of like sitting there in the slow mo, and how it's all going through that. It's like you can tell like I could tell there was some different things in mind for this, and it's like like that got lost along the way because whoever helped to like direct that first video obviously was no longer there, and then whoever came after him was like, I don't like that, or like, oh, I don't get it, or I just want to do it my way because I want to be better, or I mean, whoever fucking knows the actual reason. Like, there's a lot of different things change, and it's just it seeps into a lot of things.
yeah, so
I think we
guess it's
talked about
clear
it.
then.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, at least for me, like, I honestly, despite all the negativity, like, I was still excited to play the game. I mean, like, I still wanted to play a Cyberpunk title with flashy graphics and cool guns and shit. So I pre-ordered it even. Like, I knew about all the negative comments and that there was like some question marks, but it got to me. I'll be honest. Like, I watched those trailers and I was like, yeah, I'll pre-order this.
Yeah, because we had hope. We
Yeah.
believed. We were like, well, maybe it's not really that early. This is maybe kind of early. Maybe they're gonna polish and things. And it's like, oh, you sweet summer child.
Because even that that like shitty defense for their transphobic ad is like we only know that it was shitty in hindsight. Like they could have been totally telling the truth, and like it would have been super legit. But
Right.
I mean,
No, that's a
even
good point.
now that we know that it's not legit.
Yeah, now that
No.
we played it. So yeah, I guess moving forward then, all that stuff happened before the game came out, and then, even as we'll say it quieted down, right? So 2018 was when it was really big. We had all that gameplay footage, and then it kept getting delayed. We were supposed to have it, 2020 happened, the pandemic happened, it got delayed. And then finally, once the release came out, late in 2020, we had another blitz, we'll say a post-release chaos. So more of both reviews of the game coming out or like right before it launched, and then all of this, I mean, we'll just call it a shitstorm of what happened right after the game came out.
Oh no, it was holy shit.
It was like 3 fucking shitstorms, man.
It was,
Right. Category 5 shitstorm.
I had not seen like shit this wild happen on a game release since fucking No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Right.
Not even
maybe-
like Fallout 76 was this bad. Like, in
somehow
terms of
no,
release.
even though that game was pretty bad release too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. 76 was a little bit more. I think 76 was more unique because I think there were just so many people who were like expecting this because they
That's
saw
very-
everything. And there's
yeah,
like,
it's very
this just
fair.
feels really like it's just based on prior history versus this had like there was like no basis for it, so we were still waiting, like we're just still waiting to figure everything out. And then it came out, and then anyway we're gonna get into it.
So I do want to note, and this is something I feel like doesn't get talked about often. It's just why I made a point to mention it here, which was that before the shitstorms came rolling in, we got a lot of positive press about this game. I
Yeah.
remember reading these myself that like there were like articles going up on Metacritic and elsewhere where they talked about, oh yeah, it was buggy, but this is one of the best games. Like this article pre-released December 7th from M3. He straight up says Cyberpunk 2017 will definitely be remembered as one of the most significant titles in the history of gaming media. And that might still hold true, but probably for negative reasons.
I was gonna say it was
Not the reasons that they
Oh.
intended.
there.
But
For
it talked
sure.
about it being top notch and like about just like some of these reviews I'm like, did we even play the same title? Like they're just so nothing but praise. I remember even seeing it. I couldn't find the screenshot again, but there was an article. It's like, yeah, it was very buggy and messy, but this was the greatest game of this year. Like a lot of crazy positive
Yeah.
reviews. And I think that's worth noting because then that it kind of fed into the lie right until release date. Like even
Yeah.
if you weren't following the hype, but you just what are the reviews for that new game? You might have gotten the wrong idea, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah, like the average consumer would definitely just see those 9s and 10s and be like, okay, I'll get it. Like,
exactly. So
And-
we can do a little bit of a lightning round. There's so many, like 3 shitstorms or more. There's definitely so many issues that came up, but let's just hop and spend a few minutes on each. Number 1, the epilepsy warning. So if you're not familiar, they didn't ship this game with the correct epilepsy warnings for flashing lights. And there's sequences in the game that supposedly not only trigger flashing lights, but in a pattern similar to those when they're trying to induce a seizure. So this was extremely
Yeah.
dangerous for people who have that sensitivity, photosensitivity to flashing lights in games and things like that. And somehow this game shipped without that, despite having these dangerous sequences in them.
Or was it more that they just shipped with the warning itself because that was all that was necessary. We were just like, oh, this game may or may not induce seizures because there's like flashing lights, but then
No,
they like
for-
it's just that it's that physical sequence from that shows
Yeah,
up
you wouldn't know
a
how to
lot.
avoid it. Yeah.
It shows up
Yeah.
a lot. You do this shit a lot in the game, like literally. What was it? The one girl on Twitter like literally said like, no, this is exactly what they do like medically when
yeah,
they're
exactly.
trying to do this shit.
It's the same
Yeah.
thing.
It's like-
it's like it's gonna have a very high success rate that if you're not prepared for it and you have this condition that it will induce a seizure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fucking
as
did
far
it.
as I know, they didn't even have like an epilepsy warning in the beginning.
Yeah, I think it was no warning was what I remember.
Yeah.
And the thing is, so not only was that an issue, all right, so that's just a legitimate safety failure to protect your consumers and do the right
Yeah.
thing. But then, I don't remember the website, but there was some sort of gaming journalist. She did her due diligence. So, by the way, there's no warnings here. So, here's how you can avoid it. If you have this condition, you should follow my instructions and avoid those sequences in the game or look away or whatever it may be. And even that was enough to kind of kick up this like baby Gamergate where like then people were saying
yeah.
that like this woman is trying to ruin our game with whatever, and like it's really nasty. Like, I mean, this doesn't even reflect on CDPR, but the fact that that was that there was such a negative response to this informative article that could save people from having a fucking seizure playing the game, like that was crazy.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was the controversy mainly right is she was taken like completely out of context. Is she had made this guide to help people with seizures to be like, okay, well if you're gonna play this game, then like this is what you gotta look out for. This is going to be ready so you don't like fucking possibly die from playing it. And like I don't remember the exact context. I don't even know where the tweet was, but it's just someone like quote tweeted it or just retweeted it and said like this person says that like CD Projekt Red specifically left this in to try and give people seizures.
Right.
And I think that was the basics of it. Someone had like misquoted, completely took it out of context.
I did not see that.
Yeah, and that's where like the whole controversy like actually started. Is because her original one is like no, like you can play the game, it's totally fine, but like this is like kind of really bad on their end, and this is what you got to do to stay safe. But then someone just tried to kick up the fucking hornet's nest by just like, oh, she says the game is purposely trying to give people seizures when obviously it's not. And then shit went downhill from there.
They did kick the hornet's nest because all these people who were just ready to snap at gaming journalists, I guess. And that's why I call it baby Gamergate, because it was really gross what happened.
Yeah.
It's 100% that.
And it was this poor woman. I'm sure if it would been a dude, probably wouldn't have been as nasty. The bottom
She put her fucking life on the line to get this info out because I think she had like multiple seizures just playing through the game, and yeah, like she did that to warn other people, but
Yeah,
I guess that wasn't enough.
Yeah, it's really nasty. And that's maybe a topic for another day. Just the general state of like the gaming populace, or whatever you want to call it. Like all the memes about that. But it's true. Like that's the bottom line. Like the people were so hyped up over this that they were willing to attack someone who did literally nothing. Like
Yeah.
so that was pretty nasty. The other big one was the last gen, which is a term I'm not even comfortable using still, but last gen meaning playing the game on Xbox 360 and on PS4, or
Xbox One.
Xbox One. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
my numbers here.
I was
Xbox
like,
One
wait a minute.
and PS4, not that last gen. So,
Shit, we're getting old.
but yeah, so playing the game on, on the last gen is what they're calling it, because now we're moved into the world of PS5 and so on.
PS5 and
And
Xbox,
so-
the series.
Yes, have a unified letter.
Fucking esoteric. Fucking whatever.
Right. So whatever the case may be, yeah. So the game didn't run great on those to the point where they pulled it from the from the PlayStation Store, issued refunds, no questions asked. You don't even have to mail back the fancy statue in your collector's edition. We'll just give you
Yeah.
your money.
I mean, the caveat with that one was like Sony and Xbox were like, wait, hold on, we're not doing that. Even though CDPR was like, hey, go through Sony and stuff and Microsoft and they'll give you a refund basically. Like they did that fucking yellow shit again, like the yellow tweet. And it was
the
like,
infamous
oh,
yellow
meme.
CDPR tweets.
yeah, and they were just like, yeah, go through them. And then Sony and Microsoft were like,
Like, wait, hold on a minute.
hold the phone there, buddy.
we didn't fuck this up.
Yeah.
So that was part of the initial controversy with them trying to get out the refunds. And again, for those of you, if you haven't played it out there listening, that saying that it didn't run well on PS4 or Xbox One is putting it mildly.
Yeah, that is the understatement. Right
Yeah,
there.
there are some very good like comparison videos where I mean the game. Actually, no, I wouldn't even say the game actually runs because I've heard.
Crashes a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
crashes constantly, and it's actually like a danger to those systems. In that, like, I mean, at some point that you're going to crash it so hard, like some of your hardware is going to be like, you know what, fuck this, I give up.
Yeah.
So yeah,
they
like
have
the
every
game,
right to
yeah,
pull it, but we haven't seen something like there's not much precedent of that much of a pullback. That refund it. Yeah, we're pulling it from the store. I don't think that's ever happened. At
Yeah,
least
that's,
not on PS4 and Xbox One. Right?
no,
So there's-
literally, and that was the big. I forget someone's pointed out that was the big distinction between like this fuck up for this game and like the fuck up for No Man's Sky is No Man's Sky they didn't offer refunds if I remember correctly, and it was again it's just there's just a really really big fallout initially because there's basically like there's very little
Actually,
word from them, and then the fucking like the
I think,
guy.
sorry, but I think they did like actually be like they were like,
They-
oh, if you
Steam
want a
did.
refund.
Steam,
Steam
yeah,
did, right,
they
right,
work, yeah,
okay.
they worked with the Steam, and on the Steam stores you could yeah they allowed you could get refunds past like their normal like regular limits
Right.
for the
yeah,
game
okay.
because there was such a big fallout, and I think Steam was more worried about like part of their own reputation too, but whatever. So that was so it was big, but it wasn't pulled from the platform at all. It was still being sold normally, but Steam was like, well, if you don't want the game because blah or whatever reason, yeah, they at least take it. So that's I guess like the big main distinction is at least like No Man's Sky was still functional and still up.
still worth selling in some
Yeah.
capacity.
Yeah, it functioned. It actually played.
Yeah,
It just
whereas-
didn't actually play like anything it was advertised to be. But
Yeah.
I think-
so
I think,
that's still actually. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that they didn't pull it off Sony's because I think Sony had had like their finger in that pie. Like they were basically sponsoring that game, so they didn't pull it off Sony. Which is like the same situation right now with Xbox and Cyberpunk, because I think they had a marketing deal with CDPR, Microsoft and CDPR, to market the game. So they didn't pull it off, or they didn't pull the game off or the store, but they did offer refunds. So
yeah.
Yeah, we saw an article.
I felt that was
recently
important to
about
mention.
that.
So
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, it was actually just pulled from the Sony store then. But in any case, it's definitely very messy. We don't know the stats or details yet, but the refund period closed. There was that recent article that even if you bought a physical copy, they just sent you the money back via PayPal and didn't ask for the game in return. So there are people who just have all their collector's editions and
just-
stuff and just got the
just
money
straight into your fucking
Yeah.
back into your PayPal.
Like
So
I think they did mention like they were like yeah, we want you to send it back at some point, and that was it.
They haven't worked that out yet.
Because I think the guy who got the yeah, the guy who got the collector's edition was like, he said like, oh yeah, they want it back, but I don't know when to send it.
Or how.
So they
or
he
definitely
says
have
no.
not-
He has his
yeah.
money already. Like,
Yeah,
what are they gonna do?
Yeah. I think there was the couple
They're
the
gonna
couple
send
ones like with the digital copies, or there was the other one where it's like, well, they went to a store and bought a digital copy from like that vendor, like Target or GameStop or whatever, and then brought it back, used the code online, then downloaded it, and it was just like things like that, and or like any of the digital versions, like, well, I got my money back, and they could technically rescind the serial on my game at any time, but they haven't. So I'm kind of interested to see what's going to happen in like a few months, if I'm going to have to buy the game again or not, or if it's just going to stay on. Like we don't really know, because the CDPR has been such a fucking huge mess right now that they're more just kind of rushing to get back as much as they can and fucking save their image as much best they can.
yeah.
And that's a good point. I think like a week ago that they posted this long apology message from the CEO.
Oh, the video.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so we
the
had
video.
a yellow. And if you're not familiar, it's become like a meme that every time they tweet something that just text on a yellow background, it's always bad news, and people started making jokes about that. And so we had like the ultimate. We had a yellow video, and
That also came with a yellow roadmap.
right, the updates
yeah.
roadmap. And so this was the start of their damage control that we've seen. That their commitment. It's even just cyberpunk.net/our commitment. Supposedly talking about why the game messed up. They said that their testing didn't identify things correctly. A lot of stuff that didn't seem very genuine, and that wasn't really explaining what happened. But assuring people up and down that, you know, that they're trying to fix it and trying to figure out what's going on, and that they didn't mean to trick anyone when they didn't give out review copies. They kind of made it sound like, you know, that was nothing strange there, even though it's true. We never saw review footage. So just pretty typical damage control, and it's definitely not surprising. We saw that there was even class action lawsuits, and that the stock price of CD Projekt was dropping. All this stuff. So like,
Yeah. Which normally I would kind of say that would
Yeah.
probably be like the main driving factor behind like a lot of the big sort of change, is the fact that they're getting sued and literally losing all this like big corporate, well, I don't know, fake money as I call it, because stocks again make no sense to me, and the existence of them is
stocks are
fucking
fake
wild.
money. You can call them that. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, all this losing all this fake money. Well, I mean, it's not quite crypto, but that's a different story for another time.
Right.
But yeah, so like normally it's but I mean, this all happened within literally what, like a month of release, or a month or two. Because I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
the game. When did the game come out again?
Oh my god.
Was it
Felt like
November?
fucking a year ago, but yeah, I think November, December.
Yeah,
Um,
I want to say. Yeah, I forget the exact, but I mean,
got
it's
it
like from the actual release of the full length. No, it's December 10th or December 11th.
December 10th. They
Yeah,
got
December
it right before
10th,
the
yeah.
holidays.
Yeah, because I remember in the video they talk about the release timeline, how they're because like, yeah, we were rushing to get fixed and do bug fixes and figure these things, but we pushed the PC version out and started letting people try it out so we can get some press release, and then they did the console version afterwards, because they pushed, was it the PC version released like on the 10th, and then the console version released on the 18th or something.
Right.
I remember those dates, like I think I remember those in my head. But anyway, it's like, so I mean, the game comes out in like December, and then now we're in November, and the head of CDPR is on a yellow video saying, "So we fucked up, and
That's the
here's
thing.
why."
I didn't even
in a
feel that
nice way.
genuine. Like, kind of just
Yeah,
like
they-
skittering the blame around.
I mean,
I mean,
yeah,
I-
but that's just corporate jargon, or not jargon,
Yeah.
but corporate save face BS. We know what's going on.
Yeah, I guess to be fair, if they just came out and were like, yeah, we fucked up, like they're gonna get way more lawsuits up the ass than they have now, you know.
Yeah, that's true. It's hard to be that frank. Exactly. I mean, unfortunately, the way big business works, or whatever. But
Yeah.
so yeah, they're in damage control now. We don't really need to dwell on it, but I do want to note that there was the Bloomberg article talking about the disastrous development process,
Yeah.
and mostly just want to note that, what is this guy's title? Head of studio. Rather than actually talked to the journalist before the article went out. He just made a white background text image, just
SMH.
claiming that the game was great and that we didn't lie about anything. We got multiple 9 out of 10s and 10 out of 10s from renowned gaming outlets. Like, just this ugly damage control. Not just just across the board. And so they're trying to pick up things. And I think the bottom line, if we move in now into our experiences directly with the game, is that obviously they're going to patch it. Obviously they're going to try to fix it a lot. But there's a lot wrong with this game that runs really deep. So even if we can fix, the cars with no textures and all the weird bugs, honestly, there's only so much you can do. And like we talked about, the lack of direction, the lack of focus and things, you can't patch that out. You're gonna have to make a new game.
No. Yeah.
So I think we can spend some time. I just want to let's dive in a little bit as to our general experiences. We talked about the release and stuff, but now that we've had time with the game, dozens of hours of what that was like, and our first impressions in particular when we finished it.
The first BPC.
Yeah, go for it, Big.
I mean, overall impressions, like, oh man, how do I? I mean, it was weird because there was a lot. I mean, it's pretty like benign in the beginning where you were just like, oh, okay. I mean, I kind of remember this from like the trailers and seeing this, like, oh, this is pretty cool, and like, at least. Oh, and it's also worth noting the point is like none of us ever had to experience the console version. We all did this on PC, right?
Yeah, we were lucky.
Yeah, so we got lucky in the PC version state. It was the optimal, idealized, first original thought, like design focus, and that was part of, again, in that talking about the video is like, yeah, they said flat out, we designed this game for PC because we wanted to go balls to the wall with as much as we could. We knew PC was the best platform for that, and then the consoles were an afterthought. So that's sort of why. So like the bugs, the stupid things on my end where I was playing were there. They were present, and I saw them. They were, I don't want to say minimal, because minimal is definitely not the right word to use. But like,
it didn't crash every few seconds.
The game, I don't even actually know if the game ever actually crashed on me. I think it did, at least once, maybe twice, but I can't remember. But yeah, so I mean, like the game ran. I was able to play it from beginning to end with like nothing really like stopping me. I remember there was that one point in the beginning where my car all of a sudden just magically like teleported 200 feet in the air, and then I was just inside of a building, like floating, seeing through some textures, and wasn't really sure what was happening because I was just driving on the road, and then all of a sudden I was in a building. So I don't know. So I remember that was my first like, oh. So that's what's gonna go happen in this game. Yeah.
And if I can, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say. So I mean, like, yeah. So like overall, like the game running, like it ran mostly fine for me. It wasn't really a big deal. Like a lot of the bugs weren't game breaking. They're just kind of dumb and like silly. And eventually, you just kind of get used to them and like what to expect. So like that was fairly fine. And then in terms of like the actual like game mechanics and like the storyline overall, it was. I mean, I think we'll talk and get some more things later. So I'm not gonna too much. I mean, like, overall, it was just like. It just was meh. There was nothing like super innovative about it. Nothing like wildly new, cool, or interesting. Like aesthetically and graphic wise, yeah, everything looked pretty cool. I could only run the game on fucking medium settings, and I was barely pushing like 50 FPS, or I guess 60 FPS. Like when I'm on foot in certain places, or usually around like 40 to 45 if I'm in a car, like almost anywhere.
What are your specs, real quick?
My
PC?
Oh my god, I'm running a Ryzen 5 2600X CPU and EVGA 1070. So like, good. My shit's good.
Similar to mine.
Fuck everyone who thinks it's not, but it's good. And yeah,
and maybe to clarify a little more too. So Frankie, why don't you tell us maybe at least what you enjoyed enough to keep playing? Because I don't know if you finished the game, but you made it to end game, right? So at least what was decent enough to keep you, that you didn't turn it off after hour one?
Wait, you guys didn't finish the game? You guys finished the game, right?
We all
I
finished it?
did.
We all
Well,
finish it?
yes. Well, I think you finished more of the side stuff. I gave up on a lot of that and finished the main storyline, but I did finish the main storyline.
Okay. All right. God, the thing that kept me playing. Jeez.
Hate. Spite.
Yeah, spite. Just prepping for this fucking podcast so I could talk shit about it. That's exactly why I spent 50 hours in this fucking game. But I don't really know. Like the beginning it was definitely cool to like drive around the city and stuff, like visually. It was nice, like atmospherically it was honestly pretty awesome. Like just driving through and playing jazz on the fucking radio and just like rain-soaked streets. It felt very noir, and that kept me going like for the first maybe 20-ish hours. Just the feel of the game. But then eventually it just became like, I just want to get these numbers up, man. I want to get my stats to like super dope levels and just like one-shot everything. So that carried me through probably till the end. And then the last stretch, like the last like 5 hours, like I just wanted to beat it. Like
You were already
just
bored.
to beat it. Yeah, I was like clocked the fuck out by the time I got to the final mission, and I was just like, I don't give a fuck. Like important characters are dying like left and right. I'm just like, dude, just get me to the end of the game so I could like play Yakuza or like Hades or something.
Yeah, I think for me it's a little bit of both. That I definitely enjoyed just the generic RPG grind. Like, yeah, I want bigger numbers when I attack people.
Yeah.
I want to find better stuff. And I would agree too that just wandering around and doing, maybe not doing the main quest, but just doing whatever you find, like driving around and just exploring, is definitely what the game does best. I mean, we can't deny that the size of the game map is pretty big, and
Yeah.
there's a lot to do, not just within the main night city, but the outskirts were surprisingly big. That kind of outer regions and the Badlands, they call them, and whatnot. So, yeah, I guess the same. That nothing felt mind blowing, but it was nice enough to at least chug along. And I definitely felt that sort of hate completion once I got towards the last couple chapters. I definitely, as Big mentioned, like I did more side stuff just because I knew that I was gonna enjoy it more than the ending. So I was like, every time I play the main quest, I hate it. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna keep wandering around and doing these random quests that pop up, and that was definitely the game at its best. And I think once I got settled into some of the combat stuff, which we can talk about later, it was pretty fun. Like once I had a build that I was satisfied with and more unified gear and goal, it was nice compared to when I was just rapidly tapping on faces for a while. So yeah, I think that it does have some kind of generic staying power, I guess, as a overall RPG, but definitely
I
a
will
lot
say-
that the game got
sorry.
wrong. Oh, go ahead.
I will add that like eventually the game just became like, at least for like 5 or 6 hours, God, even 10 hours to be honest, it just became like a game where I muted it and like just played YouTube videos on the side and just like grinded numbers.
Background.
And that's like, yeah. And it's like, I don't know, like that's like a Destiny like game. Like this game should not feel like Destiny.
Right. That shouldn't be something it aspires to. When we were waiting for this gripping, genre-defying, mind-blowing, first of its kind single-player experience, shouldn't be a number crunch while you watch a stream.
Yeah, no, that feeling of, yeah. I mean, I definitely, I don't remember at what point I got to that point, but yeah, I was at the same point. I was just like,
Gradual.
I was just playing like I just wanted this game to be done with. Like I was playing it to beat it for the sake of saying that I had beaten it and played it all the way through, so I could specifically talk trash about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you had a fair assessment, right? No, that's
Yeah.
valid. It's a valid
I mean,
reason.
And I just if I look on my Steam profile, all 71.9 hours of it were just so I could talk about it out of spite.
Oh my God, you put 70 hours. I only managed to put 50 before like I just couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah, because I think especially there were parts where like some of the missions where you just have to like time has to pass in game and wait stuff. Like instead of just sitting down and just like passing, like actually just forwarding time. I would just go around and like do random shit or like complete side things. So there's a little bit I did of that, but then at some point like I realized it's like, wow, this mission is taking way longer to progress forward than I thought it would be. And I'm getting kind of fucking tired of this, so let's just hurry this shit along and just fucking go. But yeah, so I ended up putting put a decent amount. 71 hours is, I guess for an RPG game of this scope, probably about where I would imagine I'd be.
Yeah, I mean, you paid for it. You might as well.
Yeah, fucking paid for it. Well, no, yes, I also did pre-order this game.
Yeah, I totally did. I specifically remember thinking like everyone says never pre-order, but this game I'm gonna pre-order.
I mean, bro, it fit. Like all the shit they were advertising when this game come out, it fucking hit all the buttons.
Yeah.
That's true. So,
And then it delivered and dropped, and all those buttons turned out to be fucking fake as shit.
So
I guess I should add that.
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
I did not pre-order the game, by the way.
Smart man. Well, you still
Yeah.
bought
buy
it.
it. So
in hindsight, no, actually, I don't know if this is. I actually did not buy it.
You acquired
My
it
cousin
through
bought it. And I went on his Steam account and downloaded the game on my computer.
Oh, you
and I just
share
went.
accounts.
Yeah, and I just went. I just went offline mode, and so
Hype shit.
I had no like attachment
Very
to the game.
Cyberpunk
Like,
of you.
yeah. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't talk about eye patch, skull and crossbones.
Yeah.
But I did. I told people, I was like, hey, if you yoho this game, like that's thematically fitting.
It's true.
Not entirely wrong.
And we'll definitely spend time maybe.
So yeah, I had no monetary attachment to this game. I honestly, this is going way back now because I didn't mention it, but I wasn't like super hyped. I was hyped definitely at first when they first announced it, because I was just like hot off the press from Witcher 3. So I was like, oh my god,
yeah,
dude,
you had that background.
fucking CDPR is gonna make a Cyberpunk game. I love Cyberpunk. Ghost in the Shell's the shit, dude. And so like, yeah, I was super hyped, and then they didn't talk about it for fucking ever, obviously, and my hype went down, just like completely. Like I honestly didn't really care about the game until it came out, and I was like, yeah, all right, I'll try it. And even then, I was super disappointed.
Yeah, so you maybe. It's interesting though. I think it's worth noting that you were excited because of Witcher, and that's something that they did talk about in a lot of the press. Like, yeah, we made Witcher 3. It's pretty fucking great. So this game, it's gonna be good too. Like, they relied on that heavily, and so.
Yeah. I mean, they straight up like
Yeah.
in like a GDC style like talk. They were like, yeah, we made Witcher 3, so we're confident that this game is gonna blow your socks off, guys.
Only was so easy.
Side
Yeah,
note,
right?
I'm not the biggest fan of The Witcher 3.
But you
That's
didn't.
fair.
You played it right before Cyberpunk, right? But not in like 2018.
So yeah, that did work out. Yeah, I had bought in The Witcher 3 on sale, and it had been on the back burner in my Steam library for like a while. As I was going in and out of big bouts of depression playing a certain other game that I'm apparently very involved in, but that's a different story. So yeah, I finally had gotten around to going through some other games and had played through that. And The Witcher 3 overall was nice and it was good. I mean, it was the storytelling was definitely way better. With some of the things, but I also like the game itself. I wasn't specifically wowed by it outright. It was good. I mean, it definitely like I think it has a lot of points for a lot of people for sure. It was just one of those things for me where I was just like, I don't know. I played it once. I don't know if I'll play it again. Maybe sometime in the far future if I forget what happens or if I'm just bored.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just reminds me that corny as it may have been, I do remember I had a high school teacher who said that sometimes success can be a bad thing because if you let it get to your head, you just say, "Well, I won, so it's over.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try hard the next time."
I had the high ground.
I mean, that just seems exactly what happened. Like, it got to their heads, and they were like, "Dude, we're gonna throw in this this game's gonna be bigger than fucking the sun and shit. We're gonna have like cars. We're gonna have fucking. You're gonna be able to change your character and customize their fucking pubes and shit. And
something you can do.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that now that I mentioned it.
I was like, wait, that was an option, right?
Yeah, you can have heart-shaped pubes.
Oh, that's right.
There's
There was
absolutely nothing. Like,
Yeah.
it's just there in the creation. All right, so let's move on and maybe dive in a little more into our experiences playing. You touched on it a little bit, Big, but bugs. We're lucky again, and we should reiterate, we all played it on...
sort of.
We played it on PC, so
Sorta
it wasn't
lucky.
as bad as some of the stuff we saw. We played PC, and we didn't... I don't think any of us played it on super high-end. You know, we didn't wait in line to get the 3080s. So we...
I had to get mine to Botan.
Yeah. So we didn't get to play the game at super baller, high-spec, you know, top-end... RTX, ray tracing, you know. But... I think we should maybe spend some time at least talking about the bugs we did encounter, just because these are the low-hanging fruit. I think this is the kind of thing that they can patch out, right? Or ostensibly should patch out. I can start in that I also didn't have a crash to desktop the whole time, which is really surprising. I thought I had one a few times. The game hung up, and then like several seconds later recovered. But I definitely had some pretty annoying recurring bugs, like some of my implants and some of the equipment in the game just didn't work the whole time, which was pretty unfortunate. I mean, it wasn't game breaking. I was able to get around it, but that was frustrating. And I definitely, I want to say too that just the overall performance didn't feel that optimized. Like, for all the supposedly hype about this being the best technology, like I had so many, I don't know, it didn't run great. There were definitely times when I would go up to a car and then the textures would load a bit later, so it looked like a blob. That kind of thing.
It's very common.
Yeah, and FPS kind of spiking up and down all over the place, which again, and like I didn't have the beefiest rig, but it wasn't the AAA clean experience I would hope for, because definitely playing other titles I haven't had the same issues. Like I want to say recently I played Control, which was, you know, also billed as a great ray tracing game, and like I didn't have the spikes and the issues there, so it definitely didn't run the greatest, but I maybe was blessed not to have some of these game breaking bugs.
Yeah, which is like, it's kind of like a 50-50 for me, because I recall back to like, because I think me and my girlfriend, we watched fucking calling out, shouts out to fucking Donkey, and he did his review of the game, and he just sort of points out, I was like, yeah, the game is like buggy as shit, but like he puts it out like puts it like in a Bethesda like Fallout or Skyrim. It's like, yeah, it's buggy, but it's like, at least when I was playing, like none of the bugs were game breaking, and they honestly just turned out to be kind of funny. Like shit again, you get in your car and then your character model bugs out and you're just hanging outside half the car with your ass just out because apparently you don't wear pants inside the car. See, that's my point, is that like on PC, like, yeah, my game was stable enough. Like I got some bugs, but like not really a lot, and I'm kind of mad that I didn't get any like the really kind of cool funny ones.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't get that one. That was one of the ones I pulled off Reddit. Or like shit where like, yeah, like people driving in cars that are exploded and destroyed, but nothing is wrong with them physically. Or like the was the one where like the car like lands sideways or something and is just like taking damage.
Classic.
And the NPC just gets out the car and then just walks straight vertically and then just stops and is kind of floating in air, and the car just explodes and they die.
Oh my god!
I did have a good car one where I stole a car and I was very excited to try it, and then I tapped a rock and all the panels just fell off it.
Oh yeah!
Like it immediately took max visual damage by touching this rock.
Yeah, or that's probably the biggest. Yeah, the biggest bug I had was the summoning the vehicles, and how in like 80% of instances where you summon your vehicle, it would spawn and take damage immediately. Either all the way to like almost destroyed, or like you could just enough where like you hear it is like, and you hear like the crashing noises as it hit something, even though it literally just spawned out of thin air because it just wasn't.
It spawned badly.
Yeah. But otherwise, yeah, like for me, like most of the bugs, it's really just like shitty. I guess just like I don't know, like weak decisions, like shit. Like probably the biggest one, like AI behavior, probably
I don't know if that's a bug.
the worst.
Yeah,
The AI
it just seems
not developed.
seems like a missing, missing feature, to be honest.
Yeah, and there was that what was that YouTube video you showed, Peanuts? The
the
what was this?
Crow Sea.
Yeah,
Cat or
Crow City,
whatever?
where like there's like at least like a good like 5-minute section of him showcasing like AI behavior and reaction in Cyberpunk, and then comparing it to a whole bunch of other games, and it's like
Oh, yeah.
like
Oh, my
though
God.
that was the one I could relate to the most, because I saw a lot of that of just like AI just doing either ignoring me or just doing really boring like pre-programmed loops that were super obvious, like not reacting to
Fucking-
things properly, or just,
Fucking police teleporting behind you. Shit.
yeah.
Jesus
I
Christ.
don't know if I or well, no, I never
ran into
got
that.
that
I
because
ran into that.
I never got in trouble with the cops, because you piss them off, drive 2 blocks, and then they would stop following you.
Yeah.
No, so that happened to me where I accidentally like pulled out a gun outside my apartment, and then it gave me a cop rating, and so then I ran away, and there were no cops nearby, so I was like, cool, I'll just hide in this hallway till it boils over, and then a cop just appeared in front of me, and so then I just loaded my save. I was like, I'm not gonna run away, like this is ridiculous. And then everyone was like, yeah, the cops just appear behind you. That's how it works. And I was like, that explains what happened.
It's like, it's not a hood on there.
Yeah. Speaking of another fucking missing feature, the fucking cop system. Like, Jesus.
Basically,
Like-
well, I guess it was kind of fitting that they basically just do actually jack shit.
No, but it was really, really bad. Like they don't even chase you properly. That was a video that came
Yeah.
out too, right? Was that they have AI to chase you, but you have to trigger it under very specific circumstances.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what you described, Big, where you just like shoot someone on accident and drive away and nothing happens, it's because they don't actually chase after you. They're
Yeah.
supposed to. But that's probably a bug, yeah.
Or they would like chase, but they wouldn't like, it would only be on foot, and they would be so like breaking line of sight and then getting far enough away from him was
In your
so
car.
easy, because I was in a car that can go from like 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds. I mean,
Yeah.
it would do like 360s and was acting like it was like on a slip and slide in a slime hentai, but gosh. Anyway,
I don't know what kind of slime hentai you're reading, but okay.
the
With
good
cars and
ones.
slip and slide sounds like a good time. You have to send me that.
On our next
Fucking right.
episode, we explore BBC's tentacle hentai collection, I guess.
Do
Outstanding.
we have enough
Hopefully-
time in one day for that?
Hopefully less bugs in that one.
No, yeah, bugs is a different tag. So
Oh boy.
anyway,
What else? I don't know. Okay, so I guess that's the bottom line. We didn't have to me that were that bad. There were some
Yeah.
horror stories online, but I guess we got through it pretty scot free. So maybe
Or
that's
the-
why we were so
Yeah.
disappointed, because we don't have much optimism that the issues we encountered can be fixed.
Yeah.
or the classic AI behavior with the enemies and being 100% unable to recognize their own buddies' dead bodies and move anywhere around them other than to go right over them and just face plant into the ground
Just trip over it.
consistently.
I don't know if that's a bug. Like, it may just be that. I guess that's maybe not a bug, but it's something they can fix, right? That you could fix the AI behavior, but like whether that's working as intended or not.
I
It's a
mean,
very good point that happened a lot, and it's
Yeah,
just so
I mean,
dumb. Like big
honestly, for me-
combat, they're cussing at you, running from cover to cover, and then they just trip over their friend's dead body right in front of you.
Just fucking cartoon noise, like crash.
yeah, exactly. It's, I'm gonna fucking kill you, and then just trip, face plant, and then they just lie there for a good 3 seconds.
Yeah, they're just ragdolled at that point. Like
Yeah.
they immediately ragdoll. It's not even
Yeah.
like a tripping animation. They just lifelessly.
And then their animation together is very calm, casual, collected. And then there's a good split-second pause once they're up. Then they go back into the attack animation. I was like, holy fucking shit.
Pretty bad. And I think I posted a clip to that effect, that the way the game works, that there's so much emphasis on seeing people through walls. So I just shoot someone through a wall and just see the outline
yeah,
of someone
yeah.
trip.
I mean, at least that's not game break. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, that's unintendedly
mean, even-
entertainment. That might get fixed. That's something that's fixable at then.
Okay, I wonder if we'll ever know if that was a bug too, and that the guns that could shoot through walls and through solid objects, the fact that some of them can just literally shoot through absolutely anything.
That feels like it, like there's no way like it didn't come up in a fucking board meeting that they were like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't let them shoot through literally everything.
It's cool.
Oh, true. They were like,
Don't worry
oh,
about
it's rule of cool, guys. Just keep it.
Yeah, I think we can spend a little more time on the balance later.
Yeah.
No.
It's definitely one of it, and whether it's a bug or not is a very good question. I would wager that the game doesn't have any way of checking material type or thickness the
Oh
way
my
some
God.
FPSs do, right? Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
all the way
I didn't
back
think
to like
about that.
Counter-Strike, like 1.6, and especially like Source and onwards, like is this a door or is this a metal panel? And then it changes the damage you do through it accordingly.
Yeah.
This game does not do that, and I have
When
a
when did
feeling
when
that
did
they shouldn't bother.
1.6 come out? Like 1996. Jesus.
Well, it's big, yeah, seriously, and that's probably built into like. I actually don't know how it worked in the older games, but yeah, it definitely like the doors were dangerous because if someone was shooting through them.
My game didn't have a lot of bugs either, to be honest. The only notable one was the one where if you jumped on and like ran on like a 45-degree angle, like you would like speed, like you would turn into fucking Sonic. Like that was the only one that
About that.
yeah
That happened to me a lot.
it's
Oh, that
There-
reminds
there
me
was-
of one.
there was one moment where I was doing like I was sneaking around in like this apartment complex, and this guy stood up from the couch, and I was like, okay, this is kind of dumb, but I'll climb on the couch and like snap his neck from behind. And the moment I climbed onto the fence, like, or not the fence, the couch, I forgot that the couch was at a 45-degree angle, so it just is like threw me across the fucking living room. I got spotted and then blasted immediately. And that was like the only time where honestly like the bug like fucked with my game.
Oh,
Um,
God.
Yeah.
I actually did have one crash the desktop, but it was only one. I don't really remember why it happened. And but I guess I should preface I did edit the game files a little because there was like a Reddit post saying that like you can improve your performance if you have like AMD processors.
Oh, I
Yeah,
did
yeah,
the
yeah.
Right.
same. Yeah, my friend. Yeah, my friend had mentioned. I think he tweeted about that, and I saw it, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, because the game like had one like line of code that just like that if you just change the number, it would use all of the was it digital or physical cores, I don't remember, for your processor, and it just increased performance. I didn't
Yeah.
feel performance increase, but I
Wow.
don't know. I guess it was nice knowing
Yeah.
I'm
that
not aware of that. That's
it was
crazy
there.
that
Yeah,
even
I had no idea if
exists.
it worked. Yeah, it was something. Because I think it's the way that the AMD cores are used together. It's basically it wasn't like properly optimized. So it was really only using like one core, at least for AMD. So you had to download the hex editor and then go into like the hex commands. There was like one you had to change, and
Wow.
that supposedly would alter it so it actually like could read and like I think multi-thread better, maybe possibly. I forget exactly again because CPUs don't make any fucking sense to me. So, but yeah, I did the same thing, and I couldn't tell. I didn't know if I was getting slightly better. I thought maybe like when I was like not in cars or like idle in normal situations, I got maybe a slight FPS performance improvement.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like I honestly, until you just brought it up, I had forgotten I'd even done that.
Yeah, no. I didn't really feel maybe like 5 frames or something. I maybe felt.
Like
But-
and only in certain situations.
Not bad. but
Yeah.
The fact
Yeah,
that
it's
you
not-
have to hex edit
Yeah.
files within the game to make it run properly. It's like,
Like, I don't know anything about coding, but it was literally like one number that you changed, and like it
you got
used all
5
your
FPS,
cores.
That's something. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
the fact that you had to, the fact that all you needed to do was change one number and and then the game used your processor properly, like,
yeah.
what's going on, man?
That's
like,
a
what the
testament
fuck?
to the lack of
Yeah,
quality for sure.
part of me almost didn't like even believe it, especially after the fact that when I started playing it, like, when I did it and then played again, I didn't really even like notice any difference. I was just like, well, the game still runs. I don't know if it did anything, so fuck it, I'm just gonna leave it. Whatever. But yeah. Oh yeah, but that bug with the 45-degree angle kind of problem, that reminds me, my biggest probably like bug that actually impacted performance is, I'm not entirely sure like how it worked or triggering it, but it's a combination of running crouch sliding and any sort of edge or ledge at all, and how the game didn't know how to physically handle that when you were in that sliding animation and going over an edge. Because 90% of the time, if I tried to do that, I would just take 5,000 damage immediately and just die. Like for whatever
What the
reason,
fuck?
like I would
I've
slide
never had
and
that happen.
because I tried to
didn't-
do that like a couple times, like I would run like I'd know like there'd be like the cement like ledges down into like a drain or like an aqueduct type sort of situation. And I would just for fun, I would just like try and crouch slide into it, and I would crouch slide, and then I'd just get caught on the lip, and then just immediately just like take like a whole bunch of like one chip damage like 12,000 times in a second, and then I would just like die, and I was like, wait, what? or it would do something, or it would do something stupid, or like where I would hit it, and then I would like rebound and get launched 200 feet in the air. Or that, sometimes that happened with weird like jumping or like environment interactions where I'd like try and vault something, and like instead of vaulting into a window, I would just get propelled 1,000 feet backwards.
Oh yeah, I've had that too. Yeah.
And like I was thankful those never killed me. But I did almost lose one mission because it almost propelled me far enough away to like cancel the mission out because I had left the area. But yeah, so like there's just like minor things you see every now and again. But there were like, again, usually it's things like hard to recreate. Where like most other times like vaulting over objects, jumping fences, and doing a lot of them, like they usually work. Like sometimes they would look clunky, but they would at least work. So like
The slides were definitely buggy. I wanted to note that I didn't get the damaged one, but I had a reflex booster which made time slow down during slides while ADSing, so I wanted to slide often, and I wanted to make it feel like Titanfall or something where I was just zooping around. And then the collision detection while sliding was definitely buggy, and that like I would be moving from like a tile floor into the outside concrete, and then I would just stop. Like that would stop me, even though I was at a dead sprint and like sliding. And that just was, it wasn't like dramatically buggy, and maybe in some ways it kind of makes sense that like, well, there's going to be a ledge or something there, but it didn't feel satisfying when I'm like lining up this cool headshot or whatever it may be, and I just sit there.
Yeah, from like a gameplay perspective, that just would not feel good.
Right.
Maybe
And that happened to me, unfortunately,
realistically,
pretty
sure, but
consistently.
yeah. I mean, like when you guys talk about this stuff, like I've never seen any of these bugs, and like it just surprises me how even among us, I'm pretty sure we have pretty siller specs. Like I have a 1072, and I think Uwu, you have a 1070.
Yep.
What's your processor, real quick? Do you remember?
Off the top of my head, it's like an i3. It's not a very
Oh,
nice
okay.
one. It's an old one.
Yeah, I have like a similar AMD processor to BPC.
Oh, i5.
And-
Sorry, it's i5 6600.
Okay, I think that's like same level as ours.
Yeah.
But like I feel like I don't like, it's such a mixed bag even among us, even though our rigs are pretty similar.
yeah.
It's just there's just so many undiscovered issues. It is funny the breadth of it. We can see. I mean, I don't think any of us are itching to play it, but there was like a 5 GB patch that just dropped. It's supposed to fix a
Yeah.
lot of this type of stuff. So.
I'm good. I'm good, fam.
But let's hopefully those will start to disappear, right?
Yeah.
I think we should talk about maybe our. And as you can tell, I think from our discussion, right, these grievances are pretty minor. The bigger issues are in more serious design. I think I want to start with talking about the cyberpunk setting. It's in the name. It's the big selling point. It's supposed to be everything in this game, and
There's 2077 of it.
yeah, and I think pretty much concurrence. There's not a lot of cyberpunk in it. In fact, that's reflected in some of what we described. Where like playing the game, it just felt like another game, like a current current day game.
Surface level, yes. Surface level, like it has a lot of looks aesthetically, of this genre. Like, I mean, like Night City and everything else. Like, yeah, it looks like a futuristic city. It has like like slightly like retro '80s vibes to it. A lot, like some of the parts of it, some clothing styles and whatnot, some of the way the guns and weapons and sort of look, all the, again, like augmentations and enhancements it does. But yeah, then you start to really get into the game and everything else, and it's like it's just very, very basic and
Yeah.
very, very simplistic, and it's not really like it's a poor man's cyberpunk game.
Yeah, it's Cyberpunk, like literally just in name and
Diet.
figuratively as well. Yeah, diet.
It's cyberpunk 0 diet light.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Yeah, yeah, like the fucking tweet from William Gibson, the fucking father of cyberpunk, like the genre. He's just like, what did he say again? Like it looked like
like
GTA or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, the motherfucker who like invented like the name of the genre basically is like this, it literally just compared it to another game. That shit makes me laugh.
He said it looks like GTA with coat of '80s paint on it or something like that. And
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
that's the game we got. I think that's pretty valid. Like,
No, yeah,
Yeah.
that's 100%.
yeah, I think it's worth noting that I couldn't shake this feeling that it felt like I'd played this game before, and I realized like driving around, going enemy outpost to enemy outpost with just slight variations between them, it really is similar to Saints Row or like the Far Cry outposts.
Yeah.
And that's not inherently awful because those are games I enjoyed in some capacity, but I think it's worth that shows just how much the combat and how much the feel of it was just like drive cars, shoot people, which is not very cyberpunk. Like there's a place for that, but
Yeah.
that just because things are crowded and people are poor and the skyscrapers are big and there's lights, that doesn't make it cyberpunk. Like cyberpunk,
Yeah.
I would have some expectation of it feeling like, more in the future and that the technology has it advanced and that, that type of, and even that doesn't feel present. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for I guess for me, there was like a little bit, like there was again like some of the basic ideas of, again, this capitalism and corporations running absolutely wild, controlling all these aspects of like society, and there being like huge class separation that's like so wide and distance from each other that's basically like insurmountable. There's basically no way to fix it. Like if you're born poor, you're dirt poor, and you're gonna stay dirt poor, and you're gonna eat bugs for the rest of your life, and there's nothing you can do. And then if you're born into some high corporate family, you're just gonna step on people and not give a dang, and then be all gold every day and shit like that. Like, so that's like basic and easy to kind of go over. But yeah, then there's like a lot of more like interesting themes and shit that kind of got over, just completely like not even hinted at or like referenced. It's just there's just like corporations are bad. You have to be against them and sort of stop them sometimes when when you feel like it.
And I would go a step further and say, yes, we're told that there's this severe class divide, but like playing the game, I didn't feel reminded of it often. Like, yeah, sometimes you see corpos and sometimes you see people who look sad, but
True.
like
Yeah.
it didn't really. That felt like part, one of the many plot aspects and world aspects that you're just kind of told about. You
Yeah.
just know that it's there, but it didn't feel like. Just because there's a lot of people around, that doesn't make me feel like these people are sad and poor. That makes me just feel like I'm in a city, which is, you know,
You are in a city. Yeah.
yeah, and it doesn't really sell that. And yeah, there's like a lot of slums and stuff, but like again, that's
It's very
You
minor.
know-
They're just areas you can go to and do shit in.
and you have to really sell it. And what you described, Vig, is true. That is pretty, a common cyberpunk theme, right? This extreme capitalism that the government has less power than the corporations, and that the class divide is immense. But if you're not gonna really pitch it, that still feels pretty current day, because unfortunately that
Yeah.
still exists in some capacity in
Yeah.
the world we live in right now in 2021, right? So if it's a big city and there's some poor areas and there's some corporate people in suits that are very rich that shit on the poor people, that still feels pretty GTA, pretty Saints Row, pretty current day. You have to really make it a little deeper than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
to make it feel more cyberpunk, I think, and I just don't think we saw that. Like, as much as we enjoyed exploring, it's just because it was a big city that was cool to look around. But that could have been Cyberpunk 2021, and it would have been nice to drive around and see the sunset Pacifica or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's I guess again that theme hits harder, probably like, oh shit, well I guess it's like almost 30, well little under 30 years ago, like back in like at the actual 90s and 80s when like cyberpunk was more a little bit slightly more of a newer like genre and still being explored and everything, where most people weren't as aware or really paying attention or seeing the giant class divide that was deepening and whatnot, versus now it's insanely apparent for us. So like it's just like an old easy way to kind of like give some I guess like lore in depth to sort of immerse you in it. But yeah, it's just none of that fucking comes up. I mean, shit, the main character like starts off with their own place to live and then gets random places to live that aren't actually places to live. And you don't actually do any living. You just only drive around and shoot people. Yeah.
Right. You don't feel the weight of this as in the main as in being V, right? There's kind of just the observer.
Like to add to that, I think the tabletop game itself like is all about survival and stuff, and like how like the corpos are there, like the big corporations are there, but you as a character can't really do much like to stop them. Like they're way too big for like an individual or even like a group of like 5 people. And like the whole game is focused on like just surviving day to day, you know? And like we don't feel that at all. Like V, honestly, all things considered, is like it's pretty fucking well off. Like you mentioned, like she starts with her own apartment, pretty big and sweet apartment too, to be honest. And yeah, like you just don't feel the because the cyberpunk genre, you know, the headline, I guess, is like low life, like high tech, but you never feel that low life. Like even the city itself is like, someone mentioned this in a video that I watched, but the city itself doesn't feel low life at all. Like even the slums, the quote unquote slums,
right.
like they don't feel
beat up and there's trash, but that's that's San
Uh,
Francisco, like shit.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Like that pretty much like and like when you think of, you know, cyberpunk, like the aesthetic, like the city, like you think of fucking Blade Runner, you know, everything's super cramped, everyone's like, it's overpopulated and there's just trash everywhere, it's constantly dark. But like Night City in cyberpunk is just like, it feels like San Francisco.
It's slightly more colorful San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Wait, what was that? You're still a little quiet. Ooh.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I totally agree. It just feels like a current city.
Yeah.
And I think another key cyberpunk aspect is, you said low life, high tech. I don't think the game feels very high tech. So
in a lot more ways than one. Yeah.
right. So meta in terms of the technology, but even the world setting, if we're talking about just the cyberpunk aspect, I think I want to note that they chose thematically to make it that the internet, or net as they call it, nets are not fully operational, that there were big hackers that kind of messed up the internet, and then now there's only smaller corporate run networks that you can connect to, and that there were a lot of big bad AIs that they had to trap behind a big firewall. And so that all sounds very cyberpunk, but in practice it means that you don't really use the internet, which unfortunately, you know, we all recently rewatched, a couple of us did, rewatched Ghost in the Shell, and like a big thing about that is the pervasiveness of technology and how you're constantly plugging into things online, and we don't really have that. V has a sort of jack in the wrist, but you
like
just
a
use it
fucking,
to
like,
access computers like we would anyway.
Some HDMI cord or something.
Yeah, right.
You have a retractable HDMI cord that you use to solve like hex grid puzzles.
Right.
Very
Exactly.
cyberpunk.
So, and then there's hacking, quote unquote, in the game, but you just pull up an overlay and you run little programs, and it allows you to like mess with a security camera. You can take it over from afar, which is like that's like in Rainbow Six. Like that's not very cyberpunk. And
Yeah.
I guess it gets a little dark. You can like send a program that will make someone kill themselves and like other things and make them catch on fire, which I guess okay, that's a little harder to do with current technology. But
Yeah.
then it just feels like you're casting spells.
Yeah.
In like
honestly,
a fantasy game. It doesn't feel
that-
very cyberpunk that like I click on this guy, I cast overheat and he catches fire. Like that doesn't feel
Yeah.
like technology is transcending our existence and things. It just feels like generic combat that we've seen in many other titles.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into more of it on the RPG, but like I did a melee build, and like you said, it felt like spells, and it honestly like at points just felt like I was playing a generic fantasy game, because I would just go around slash people and like cast spells.
Yeah. I think and then well then specifically like I guess that gets more into sort of like main plot and other things, but like that the aspect of how like the net is set up in that world, I honestly thought that plot point, like that lore behind that, I thought that was sick as fuck. Like that was some pretty fucking cool and set up this like really like cool, interesting, like yeah, it's like there's the overall like net and like internet that we sort of know is basically blocked off behind this like security like wall. Because there's been so many just like rampant AIs that like evolved into it that are just like will just kill people, and a whole bunch like of malware and viruses and all this other shit. And so yeah, like there's just very small pockets that you can access to actually do shit, and it's all like either corporate monitored or like run and organized by gangs for their own use. And like you like it's like a 5-10 minute mission I think in the main plot overall, and then you just never interact with it like ever again.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the class disparity. We were only told about it.
Yeah. I want to note that the times you do go into net, it is just like retextured, like retextured versions of areas you've already been to. Like the one area that you always go back to is the fucking Arasaka like courtyard where fucking Johnny fights Adam Smasher or whatever. Like it's only that and like some weird fake, like some weird like not area, I guess. I don't know.
Right,
really know
the
how to explain
net
it.
running that you do when you're supposedly diving in and doing the real cyberpunky thing.
Yeah, you
It's
just go to one place.
Blue place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like the Matrix but blue.
Yeah, so there was just one big thing. It was just like, man, this could have been really really cool, but it's not.
And yeah, it's true. So the net running, we're kind of just told. And maybe the last thing I want to touch upon too is that, in general, as you can tell from our discussion, I think it's worth noting that so much of the game is just kind of there and not interactive, which also makes it difficult to be sold on the setting. Like,
You mean all those locked doors to all those random buildings you see around?
right, all these lush buildings that look cool, you can't go in them. And then I think something that blew me away was that when you're leaving your apartment, you're leaving V's apartment, you pass by a ton of food stalls. And that reminded me very much of like Blade Runner and the cramped noodle
Yeah.
places and stuff. And I think
Yeah.
that's a cool part of it. You can't even buy food from any of them. You can't interact with them. They're just set pieces. And I was pretty disappointed, and that was consistent throughout the whole game, right? Was that a lot of this cool looking stuff, it's not alive, really. It's just kind of there. And that's just a big part of why, like, let alone being sold on Night City being this crazy kind of dystopian but attainable dystopia, it doesn't even feel sometimes like a very live city just in general, right? Because there's just people walking around, but you can't do anything. You just have to go to the next quest point. And so your interaction is, oh, well, there's gang members in this building that I can shoot.
Yeah, it's like fake. It just all feels fake. It all feels very forced and fake because it's like there's nothing like it doesn't feel like living or breathing or doing this. Like no, it just feels like it's on a set cycle of pre-programmed everything. And like 90% of it's locked off except for a couple random side things, and then the main places that you're forced to go into.
Yeah, I think something that struck me, I mentioned earlier that I liked the Pacifica area, which, if you're not familiar, that is the sort of outskirts of town. It was supposed to become the next big commercial center, but then it went south, and so there's a lot of unfinished buildings. And so you go there, through the main plot, but it's kind of nice to drive around because it's the edge of town. It looks kind of like a boardwalk type beachfront area.
Yeah.
And something that I didn't notice until until later was that a ton of Pacifica is on the map, but you can't actually access it. So actually, where all the abandoned buildings are, you kind of eke in that direction during one of the main story missions, but you can't actually explore them. You can only drive through like the actual immediate coastal area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's only like one road that you can drive down in
Yeah,
Pacifica,
it's
like the big
crazy.
one.
And like, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that area, but like realizing it later, I was like, oh yeah, you totally can't even go up to those buildings.
Yeah, it's such an interesting backstory for an area too, you know, like it's and they could have easily like, oh, it's unfinished. They could have just like made the buildings look like similar, like interior wise, because it's unfinished. Like there's lore explaining
Right.
that, and it would have been nice to be like actually explore it.
Yeah, because the
But no.
way and the way that the world works in Cyberpunk, like you would expect, there are probably people living in there. Like definitely,
Yeah, squatters and stuff.
yeah. Like in fact, Pacifica was notable in that there's this really sad encampment like under a freeway that you can pass by, and like that was one of the most stark things. Like, yeah, these are people kind of rough for it, right?
Yeah,
And so that would have you could have expanded that beyond it, but in fact they were just there. And I think part of why I felt bad was there was like some quest where I picked up a sad shard. What do they call them? Like just text, basically, where this girl was like, "I'm poor and I need help," and then she couldn't find help. So like again, they told me that these people are sad, and they had at least some manner of setting to support that, but
yeah. It
yeah.
would have been nice to have like, you know, I mean, I don't think I did like all the side quests, but I did a good chunk, and none of them ever felt like they were saying anything about class disparity or like even like none of the quest giver, like none of the people that we got the quest from are like even like poor. Like they're all
No,
like
yeah,
they're
it's
they're
very
all
true.
like in the city and like honestly kind of well off.
Yeah, they're all successful, and we're told that they're successful. Um, all right, let's move on a bit then. So the setting, obviously, we're not very convinced. The other big part of the game, and what drew me to it, and I think for a lot of us, we play a lot of RPGs. This game was supposed to be a very, very authentic RPG. We saw it. We were told time and again, it's not an action game. This is an RPG, right? And
Yeah.
so I don't. And again, this is another thing that we weren't particularly sold on. Let's start talking about the combat. You touched on that a little bit, right? That I think you said you had the melee build. I know Ben and we had the gun build. I talked
Yeah,
about
yeah,
just
yeah.
generically wanting to shoot people, but let's dive into that a little bit more about the combat variety and what was available and how that played out for us.
I mean, God, like what all of us ended up just one-shotting everyone. Like
Did we all play on hard? Let's get that out of the way. Did we all? I
I
played on hard. I don't know.
I
about
played
you
on
guys.
hard, yeah.
I think it was on medium.
Yeah, and
Because I mean
forget,
that's my
the game
that's
has
my
cute
default.
names for them, but
Any RPG or any game I play, I just put it on like whatever normal is because
Yeah,
like
like
I don't
the-
want to. It's my first time through. If I'm not gonna like it, I don't want to make it any harder than it needs to be for
Yeah.
myself. And that turned
Um,
out to be a fucking joke anyway.
I want to say I did start on the hardest difficulty at first because because like going in I wanted to be like, okay, I want to feel this, I want to be immersed in Night City, I want to struggle, you know. And I did play very hard for like honestly probably like half the game, and eventually I eventually switched to hard, back down to hard, because the combat just got really frustrating because I would just get one shot like constantly. Yeah, and then at that point it got like mega easy. And even very hard didn't feel like very fair, because like when you I think a good game like a good difficulty thing would be like, God, I'm like blanking out now, lost train of thought, but
actual
like it,
challenge, not just changing the number values.
yes, exactly, yeah. Like the only thing that changed really was that I one shot people a lot quicker, and they did not one shot me, and that was the only change from very hard to hard. I felt like.
Yeah, and no change in AI behavior or anything
Absolutely.
like
No.
that. It's just no. It's
Bad
just
no
they
matter
have they output more and they can take more input.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
That was my experience on hard. I did want to note, like, I felt like the game was recommending that because it was like highlighted when you could choose them. There was a little symbol underneath hard, so I was like, sure, I'll start there.
Yeah, I
Um,
think a lot of the game points like to hard being the default.
Yeah, which is a little strange. But yeah, I agree that um, definitely. So the enemies had like thousands of health to really summarize it, and then V had hundreds. So I was much squishier. But then I started doing so much damage towards the end that there wasn't much disparity, right? Like I was if when even though they had thousands, I was eventually doing like tens of thousands
Yeah.
with critical hits or whatever it may be.
Yeah, eventually, it got so. It was comical the way it was working. I mean, because I think I was. I mean, either was it because I was a normal or just the way I had spec'd myself. Because I had gone for like, I think again I spec'd into what was it like, what was the one for like assault rifles and pistols? What did they call it? Reflex. Yeah, the reflex tree or whatever, which is like I guess the main gun tree. But then I'd also like I had spec'd into stealth, and I was using like mainly handguns with but I would with like silencers, and basically my focus was just to maximize my crit damage from stealth, so that I could just one shot people from stealth and just continue on that way. And then when I needed to actually like fight a whole bunch of people, I had an assault rifle and could just do that. But yeah, it just got to the point where like my crit damage and chance was so astronomically high that like within I can't remember like by like level 8 or 10 I was doing
okay, so again.
yes.
Okay. We took an unplanned technical break, but right before we ran into issues, Ben, you were talking about your build and how that shook out when you were playing.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so then I started blasting. No. So. No. Yeah. So yeah, we were just talking about like, yeah, like very early in the game, like I was reaching comical numbers of damage against my opponents just due to the way I was built. And I'll point out, by the way, I didn't really understand how the build system really worked until like probably more than halfway through the game. Because going through the skill tree, it's just a bunch of different like random perks you basically get that just boost some things boost here and there, and then others give you random shit. But it was just like I don't know. It was kind of confusing, and most of it just seemed really kind of dumb because I wasn't sure like which ones I wanted to even spec into, and like which perks really kind of seemed worth it because all of them were just really like basic and boring. Like again, the meme joke is that like the entire reflex tree is just shooting better from behind cover. Like
It's like not even a meme. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
the
that's
big downside.
pretty much sums it up actually.
But yeah, so I played like 90% of the game from crouch, doing like 20 to 30,000 damage, shooting people ahead. Oh, and then the best part is no one died because there's the magical eye enhancement you can put that makes it so that your bullets just don't kill people for whatever reason. So I was critting people for like 7 to 8 times their health bar, but that didn't count as deaths.
So
Stealth.
fucking goofy, man. Stealth, yeah.
Stonks.
I mean, even for the melee tree, the only thing that it really changed was like how much damage my left click did and how fast I can left click. And like I expected at least like maybe one or two different new moves, like because I mean it's like it's like melee, so it's like I didn't expect anything too game changing if you spec'd into it, but at least like one or two different moves. But it really was just like left click faster or like right click stronger or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, super just basic and generic. Cause yeah, I don't think there was nothing that really like actually added modifiers to like weapon specialty or damage. It was just no, you either did more critted better or did more crits from stealth, or you shot better and did more fancy things from behind cover. Like that was it.
Yeah, talk about wanting to be more cyberpunk. It wasn't shown in the combat. So I talked a little bit about like the hacking, and that just felt like spells. And that was the gunplay. Was there are smart weapons that like shoot little like tracking bullets. I guess they travel slower, and then through whatever implant you have, they hit the target. But they're not that effective just because, and they're just one aspect of the game. And otherwise, yeah, I used firearms, and oh my god, I would be really excited. So, what kind of cool stuff can I do with my guns? And it was just 10% more crit chance when firing from cover, 5% more crit damage with rifles, and it's all like that. Even as you
Yeah.
get to the outer ends of the tree, which are supposed to be more specialized, is just bigger bonuses like
Yeah.
double 50% more damage with
Thing.
the last bullet in your magazine with a handgun. Like it's just boosts. That doesn't and yeah, like it is nice to see big number when shoot guy, but that's not meaningful gameplay. And I didn't really change my tactics the whole time because it was just doing more damage.
Yeah. And then like the actual like body augmentations you can get, which is again arguably one of the like the biggest parts about any sort of cyberpunk style game is like the fact that you can change your body to have all these like cybernetic and augmented parts and do all this fancy shit. That was standard. I don't want to say like it was terrible and it was awful and it was the worst thing ever, but like none of it really like a lot of them just never really like actually mattered that much to me. Like the like you said, like with like the smart guns, like the way to use the smart guns, you have to have one of the hand augmentations, one of which is incredibly easy to get and is actually built into the storyline.
Right.
But then for the hand augmentations, it's literally built to that mechanic is how you use the guns. Either you can use the smart weapons and have the magical bullets that can just fly around things for whatever reason, or you get bullets that ricochet off walls, and that's it. Otherwise, the augmentation slot does absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And like there
I
are other
think
ones, or like the arm one is solely for the weapons, where you have your choice of like 4 different weapons.
Yep.
All 4 of which I didn't use for the entire game.
Well, mine was bugged. I had the gun arm, and I was really excited about it, and then I couldn't change the ammo type on it. So
Oh yeah.
it worked. It became like a CC thing. Was that I got stuck with the explosive one, which knocked people down. So I had some purpose. I think it's worth noting that one of the hand augmentations is the mono wire, which sounded cool, and I think in some of the gameplay footage, you see them shooting out this wire to like hack a guard from afar, and that didn't happen. It just became another melee, like a less
Yeah.
cool looking mantis blade that is
Yeah.
just a wire in your hand that you could whip people with.
Yeah, for me I got both the gorilla arms and mantis blades, but I never really used the gorilla arms because I never used fisticuffs. But I just thought it was never clear like whether or not it would actually like increase your like melee weapon damage as well. Like it would make sense that it does, but they never tell you.
Yeah, it was kind of confusing because remember I debated buying those so I could like to try out for the one quest line where you have to box all the random people.
Yeah.
I was like, well, if I just get the gorilla arms, is that just gonna break the quest line for me? Like, am I just gonna magically just do a whole bunch of damage now? Because you had the same problem where like doing that quest line was insanely annoying because we had nothing spec'd into doing any sort of melee combat, like or especially like with our fists. So like those quests were insanely tedious.
God, yeah. And in
Which I
fact,
guess in terms of like RPG perspective, like okay, yeah, there's obviously going to be a couple like side quest lines that are going to be more difficult depending on like your class specking and things like that. So it kind of made sense, but I don't know that one in particular. I did like 1 or 2, and then I was like, this is really boring, and I don't want to do the
I
rest.
couldn't even do it actually. I played on hard, and I was doing like maybe 1% damage and going down in 2 hits. It
Yeah.
was just not playable. And then I looked up, oh, what do you get for finishing this crazy hard quest? And it was very, very, very weak loot. So I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, I'm happy to not do this.
I actually managed to make it through to the end for that quest line. And it, like I mean, it just honestly the whole quest line just highlights how bad the hand-to-hand combat is. Because all the animations are so fucking jank that it's hard to like, because there's a counter system, but it's so hard to tell, like when to actually counter. Because like sometimes the opponent would just like they're in the process of doing one animation and just suddenly like clip to another animation, and it's like it was just really unclear and it's super jank. I like pretty much the only way I made it through to the end of that quest line was I was over leveled for like every fight, and I I like super like abuse the dodge slow mo thing, and yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
the and yeah, like Uwu said, the end of the quest, the rewards were definitely not worth it. I think you get like 5,000 credits and like maybe like some street cred, and that's it. Like you don't
like,
get
a
any
gun,
cool.
right? Something like
Wait,
that.
what?
You don't get a gun.
No, you don't get anything. You literally just get money and street cred. There's a choice at the end where you can choose to like throw the match to like get more money, but I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I want to beat the shit out of this guy. And yeah, no, I don't know how much money you get from that one, but it's probably not that much. Maybe like 1,000 more or some shit.
I mean, it said you got that sweet, precious street cred that's totally not just like, I didn't even know I was accruing until all of a sudden the game told me like, oh, you've reached max level. And I was like, wait, what?
Doesn't actually have
And
a
then,
bearing,
yeah. And then I looked, I was like, wait, what is my street? It was like, oh, okay. So these vendors will like sell you more things. So I went and checked and was like, this is just the same crap the vendors always sell me. Only, oh, okay, there's one orange item they sell me now that doesn't even have good stats and costs like insane amounts of money for whatever reason. I was like, okay, bye.
Yeah, the loot is definitely an issue that the stores have, like you said, extremely expensive gear. It's not really that usable. I think that a lot of times the higher rarity meant more mod slots, which in theory meant that you could do more with a weapon regardless of the base stats. But then getting mods was really difficult, really random. I found that I didn't want to spec into it, but I spec'd into the crafting abilities just because that was the most reliable way to get the gear I really wanted.
Yeah.
Like I could pick up guns and they were cool, but like, oh, I really want to use this handgun that does a ton of damage. Well, it only exists as a crafting spec and no one drops it, so
Yeah.
no choice.
I mean,
It's
what
really
they should have
frustrating.
done is like what every other fucking RPG does, and it's like tie like the really good weapons and shit to like side quest store and like side quest rewards and
Right.
stuff, but they don't. It's just money and street cred.
They just appear. Yeah,
Yeah.
some of the best crafting specs, which in turn lead to some of the best weapons. They just drop from random, like radial. Like, oh yeah, the main enemy in this area has it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I will say getting sort of on that too, like the loot experience in this game, extremely RPG like, very fucking generic, so much to the point where it's I don't know, it's kind of worse in this game than like some other things. So that's always a big pet peeve of mine. Probably the biggest thing in any RPG is when any RPG has different slots for like armor and what or like and things that are in your body and they look different. Like that bugs me to no fucking end. Because at no point during the game do I ever end up playing with like one matching set and like my character actually
Yeah.
looks like a cohesive like person at any point. It's just random. But then in this game specifically, because like you're not actually wearing armor, you're wearing random pieces of clothing that have armor values anyway.
Yeah.
So I looked like some like fucked up like background dancer from an MC Hammer like video or some shit, and like none of my clothes matched, made any sense, but it was optimal. And like just my whole experience in that game was the Pro ZD bit where he's like, what, like the walks in the bar like, what are you wearing? It's my ass kicking outfit, bitch. And he just like has like a tutu on like some like shitty sunglasses and it was just like, oh my god, it was like. I hate that, but this is more of like I guess an overall RPG mechanic that I think needs to be addressed for others, and so I'm just sick and tired of that. I'm going through that again while I'm playing Darksiders also, and it's pissing me off.
It's a very common issue.
What's really interesting though is like in Witcher 3 you do get like a lot of different pieces of armor, but they all look like really coherent. Like even if it's like from a different set, they look like they match. Like
A little, yeah. Everything is pretty generic, or at least like the extremity parts are pretty simple, and then everything is made like the chest piece has like the most color and things to it, and so it's just like, yeah, you can put on like any boots or gloves kind of with this chest piece, and they basically work because all the gloves just look like they're made out of leather.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
different like slight colors and like things. So yeah.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that there's a lot of options available, just depending on how, if you wanted to look like a nice corpo in a suit, or someone who just has a ton of armor and is ready to run into like a gunfight. But I definitely had that issue where it was hard to have just to not look like you're wearing just a mismatch.
Yeah, like a fucking pile of melted crayons near the end of the game, which like it's just so weird because it could have been easily fixed with like a transmog system, and they kind of do have one. I don't know if you guys like collected anymore, like because they have like a slot for like a close option that like covers everything.
Oh, it's
And, like,
true.
and,
Yeah,
like,
the
everything under
outfit
is, like-
slot. But I never understood what the point of that was, because I never got anything that went in it that actually like did anything. And the ones that I did get always would override the stats of everything else I was wearing.
Oh, no, it actually doesn't override the stats. If you it's like a separate slot that's like that changes like your entire look, but it keeps your stats.
Interesting.
Which like that's basically like a transmog system, but
Sorta, yeah.
like the issue with that is like they have like no outfits. They have like maybe like they have like I collected like 3 different kinds of like hazmat suits.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was
they're
it.
all
And,
low
like-
stats.
Or the
Yeah.
the Netrunner suit.
Yeah. And like
was it.
And like that was it. And like the fucking like bandages you get in the beginning of the game, like that's still there, and that's it. That's like the 5 outfits you get, and they could have easily made like at least a pseudo, like if they didn't want to, or like if they didn't have like a full transmog system ready, they could have just added like a handful of like fun looking suits and stuff, but they didn't.
Yeah, or that. Maybe that was another one of those items where like it was kind of dropped, like as the development process was going on, and it just never got finished or fleshed out. I mean, who knows? Because that would sound like a great thing to like sort of solve that problem of like, oh, all these random bits of clothing don't match or like do anything, so I'll just look fucking weird. But okay, well, you can just slap this over and you got a cool outfit that actually makes you look cohesive, but you get to keep all your stats. But because I don't know, I didn't ever use it in the game at all, unless I was forced to for the main plot.
Yeah, no, that's fair, because there's no outfits you can wear that like actually look cool.
I think what I did towards the end was since I did spec into the crafting, I was able to pull mods off of clothing. So then I just found clothing with enough slots that were halfway decent looking, and then just put really good mods on them, and then just didn't change clothes ever.
Yeah.
So I found something that
yeah.
looked halfway okay. But that's a pretty heavy-handed solution, and it was really only effective later in the game when I was able to find stuff like I was able to pull really good mods off loot that was dropping, and that didn't happen until endgame.
Yeah, I think that was like one of the, I don't know if it was like explicitly mentioned, but they did. I think the original plan was that like all the clothes had like no stats tied to them, but you can like the mod system were the stats. So like I don't know why, like if that was the original intent, I don't know why they changed it, because that sounds like it would have been way better than what we have now.
Yeah, I mean whatever shook out, whatever we have now is definitely. It's too bad.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. That's just one more tick off the on the block of this game not being really innovative or different at all, and it's just exactly like any other freaking RPG. Although, I mean, crap, freaking, I think like Dragon Age Inquisition, I think still had a better system for like at least making armor look more coherent, where you could at least like there was a crafting system which worked better, but you could also like you could gather materials and you could like repaint or like retexture stuff, so like
Oh,
at least like
yeah.
shape wise it wouldn't really change, but like appearance wise, so everything looked like it was at least made out of the same material and of the same basic color. And I remember like that part of like Inquisition, that was like the only thing I liked about that game, I think, was the fact that I could do that. I was like, okay, cool, I could actually make my character feel like a cohesive, like actual like
Yeah.
like character going through things. I remember that actually kind of pissed me off because I think I spent a lot of extra time when I was first playing Inquisition just going back to areas and like farming materials to use that system.
Yeah,
because I was like,
totally remember that too.
it's like, yeah, I don't ever want to be wearing and doing some like looking like a fucking idiot in these cutscenes anymore. Like I'm fucking sick and tired of this shit.
Well, that might have been part of why they kept Cyberpunk in first person. You really seldom see V.
Oh my god, yeah, you're right.
And talking about making your character how you want, like the trailer. In Night City, appearance is everything. But it doesn't feel that way. And in fact, even creating your character, there's no sliders. There's just preset noses and eyes.
Yeah.
And there's no organization. So you just have to thumb through like a big list. Yeah, so it definitely didn't feel like the game wanted you to care about how you look, because they didn't give you a lot. You
No
don't get to change
face.
that again.
Yeah,
so I had
yeah, I
really
was just gonna
bright
say.
blue nails that I thought I liked, but then I got tired of looking at them constantly.
Like even if you can just change makeup, like that's such a basic feature, you know? And like
Match your clothing or something.
yeah. And like to like, you know, to be able to like edit and change your face like at will, it's such a, you know, that's very obviously a cyberpunk thing. But it's just not in the game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely just. I mean, we saw the bugs, right, where people were able to make the game third person. It just didn't work correctly. So whatever happened, it could have been like a technological issue too.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
talking a
God,
little bit
those-
more about making V, they definitely marketed and talked a lot about the life path system, which did make it into the final game. If you're not familiar, it's just you can choose your origin. In this case, you can be a nomad, which means you're kind of from this wandering clan that doesn't live in the city. You could be a street kid, so it means you're someone who grew up in the heart of the city. Or the one that stands out, that I think, is Corpo, in that you start out as part of the big evil corporations and supposedly live a very cushy life. And so everyone here chose the different life path. So
On
But-
accident.
yeah, that wasn't
Yeah,
planned.
that was not intentional.
And I think the consensus is that the life paths don't really do that much. You get a different origin. So talking about Dragon Age, it did remind me a little bit of Dragon Age Origins, in that depending on your character's background, you play through a very different opening chapter of the game. And Cyberpunk tries to do that, but like I'll say, I picked the Corpo, and I didn't feel like I lived a cushy life at all. It was very short. I had
was
like
20
had a-
minutes each, I think.
yeah, really short, 20 minutes, and then you get literally a montage to bring you to the main plot.
Yeah.
Everyone just goes through a montage of quests, which is like really, really unfortunate storytelling for something that's supposed to be this visually and gripping.
Yeah, going back to Dragon Age Origins, like it's been a while since I've played that, but how long do you spend in like those character intros? Do you guys
I want to
remember?
say like at least an hour, if not two. I remember quite a bit happened.
remember-
Yeah, because I mean those games play a little bit slower and progress a little bit differently, but
There's a
yeah,
lot-
I mean it's
a lot
not.
more meat.
Yeah, but they also don't put a lot of emphasis on that being super important and impactful, which I guess is sort of fine on that one. But yeah, I mean each one of those was like at least way more interesting. I mean shit, there was
Origins, yeah.
yeah, I mean like even within like the same races, like as a human, like your options of where you can start off are like completely wildly different, and same for like if you were an elf. I think the dwarf run was pretty limited, but yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't. I can tell you, like, you would think that being a corpo would be glamorous because that's what they tell you, but you get automated drinks in an automated car ride, and that's about it. And it's just like, it doesn't really feel that interesting. And in fact, it's supposed to be, I that one stood out to me because it's like kind of like the bad guy, right? Like this is a game that talks about the corpos destroying everything. You start on that side, and it's supposed to be this dramatic fall from grace, but literally, if I can give light intro spoilers, V just sits there at a bar and goes, "Oh my god, they took everything from me," and then that's it, and then you're just right back.
Wait,
with
there's no
everyone
there's
else.
no lead there's no lead up to that. Like it just happens.
Yeah, basically, you are supposed to do a job, like a sketchy job for your boss, and then someone finds out about it, and so they come to the club, and then they leave, and then you're fired, and then you get the montage.
What the fuck?
That is your fall from grace as a big up and coming corpo superstar.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the Nomad one, sort of. It's kind of similar, but it kind of makes more sense. Where the Nomad was just like you left your clan because your clan decided to merge with another because to like save resources and thought it was going to die out, and then just turns out that clan was bought out by the corpos, so it's your clan actually just got like killed and dissolved out because the corporations wanted it or whatever, and you knew that, but the rest of the people didn't listen to you. You're like in some like town on the outskirts, like trying to get your like car fixed up because you need to get into Night City for whatever reason, or you're like meeting you're meeting up to do a job for the Jackie, the character that comes up, and then shit happens. And I thought the intro for Nomad was actually like it was fine, like it kind of made sense and like worked out, but I was just and then like the montage like going in and happened was like, oh, okay, well there's being a nomad now. I'm just a normal character.
God, like listening to the other, like I'd have, I have like no idea what the other life paths actually, like I've never seen footage or anything, but I feel like Street Kid, you get like, it feels like you get shafted the most in terms of like content, because I'm pretty sure like all I remember happening is, you go and you get a job from a guy, to like pay the debt off of like the bartender of like Jackie's like place or whatever. And you go and steal a car, and then Jackie, it turns out that Jackie is also stealing the car, and then the cops come and you get knocked out and you wake up in like a trash pile, and then the montage happens.
This is really short.
Yeah, like
That's
I
crazy.
I was while you guys were talking about the fucking like your life path, I was trying to remember like what the hell happened in Street Kid, like. And it was just like that's
Nothing,
it.
apparently. Jeez.
Yeah, like nothing.
I thought mine was bad as corpo.
Yeah, like I said, that's like the Nomad one. I kind of liked because it at least gave you the background. It's like you grew up completely outside of Night City. You know nothing about it. You again completely life away from the corpos. Then all of a sudden you come in because you have nothing left, and it's like the only sort of place to go. And you're trying to make like something survive for yourself. And then some shit happens. You get wrangled up into it. And like it was not bad, and then just it gets into the main storyline, and it was just like, oh, okay, and then I get bits of dialogue here randomly that either mean absolutely fucking nothing, or mean absolutely fucking nothing.
Yeah, I was gonna actually ask about that moving forward. How you felt? Did your V really feel that different? I know.
No.
For myself as a corpo, I thought it would be somewhat helpful because you're dealing with corpos; they're everywhere. So having the inner working of how they operate, it seems nice in theory, but yeah, it just meant honestly in practice for me that my V would just mouth off very kind of condescendingly when she felt she had background knowledge on something, and it seldom actually had much impact. And I think it's kind of funny, like you'd think that role playing, getting to change your character's paths, like as a former corpo, it makes sense that V might want to go back to that world that she lived in for however long, but the game doesn't really allow you to do that. At one point, she kind of just randomly insinuated it in conversation, and that was it. And even though the game kind of had that option, everyone was like, "Why would you do that?" And it's like, in this case, it seems to make sense that V might want to, support corporations and not believe all the BS, and just felt like that wasn't actually livable, right? Even though that was the backstory I picked. She just got to be snooty when the time arose.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like same with I feel like same with Street Kid, like they did all the dialogue options either boiled down to like her being snooty, about like the streets, or just emphasizing the fact that she is from the streets, and like, oh, I know my way around here. I'm like, I got family around here, guys. I know how these other street guys think, and like that's it. Like there's nothing really like I guess maybe interacting with like corpos and like nomads, like you get like slightly more interesting dialogue, but I don't remember any of them being particularly memorable.
No, the nomad one, it's all the same. The nomad one is just nostalgic. I was like, oh yes, I too was a nomad, just like you, random person who also just happened to have been a nomad. Or yes, I understand how the nomads work because I too was a nomad. And then you just move a fuck along like with the rest of the plot. It's just the same thing. Which actually, I thought that some of the plot point for a while was actually background specific, because you do all those quests for the one nomad clan, and then the one main character who is like a nomad, ex nomad, sort of like you would be if you sort of get it. So like I wondered for a bit if that was actually supposed to be like life path specific, and that was the sort of introduction, and then I just learned later like, oh no, that's just normal. You do that fucking regardless. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, literally everything after the life path intro is like the same.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, no, that's pretty generic and standard.
Yeah, and I think that brings us to another key point, that for all the interaction that we get and all the choices supposedly that have a lot of weight, that not just the life path dialogue choices, really all your dialogue choices very seldom have any meaningful impact, which I think was definitely not what was touted. And in fact, the quest that has the most options is the one that we all played through or saw in the trailers.
Yeah.
And that one, they got to put a lot of big branching paths in. There's a corpo agent involved. Do you call her? Do you negotiate with her? Or do you side with, this gang that you're doing business with, etc.? And none of that depth is like surface level. Like that's not something that blows me away. That's just something I would expect in this type of game. And even that, I felt, was only like, that was like a 6, right? And then the rest of the game is like a 2 in terms of interactability.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you can
yeah,
pick
yeah.
different options, but it very seldom has any sort of impact.
Like that one website that I sent a while back, where they analyzed like all of the choices and whether or not they made any actual meaningful impact. Like 98% of the game's like quote unquote like big dialogue moments, it didn't matter. And like I think they said that that one quest, the one beginning quest what you do with Jackie, and the one that you just mentioned, that is the most complex quest in the entire game. So it's like, gee, like that's how complex you can get. Like 3 like different endings, 2 of which are like basically the same.
Yeah. 3 different
It's like-
endings that affect one part of the game slightly later on, that has very, very little to minimal impact on anything else, and you can actually just skip entirely.
Yeah, it's like a side quest, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
the Militech lady just calls you up.
Oh yeah, you don't have to interact with her.
Did you guys both get the Militech lady to like show up at the end of that one quest, the first quest?
Yeah, I
Okay.
did. So as Corpo, my V acted like she knew totally how to deal with this lady, and then it didn't really change much in siding with her. And I distinctly remember being frustrated because in the trailer, the voice guys, these are very high level corpo agents, so we shouldn't try to mess with them, blah, blah, blah. He says something like that. And I was like, well, I don't give a damn. I want to shoot these people and just take them and get them out of the picture. And I literally could not. You cannot. So the whole thing is that they kind of set you up, and obviously they're not there to chat. They kind of like forcefully interrogate you.
Yeah.
And you just can't use weapons on them. It's one of the many cases where your gun is just not available.
It's so ridiculous because like the amount of people that you're up against in that scene is like minuscule, like compared to like literally everything else in the game.
Right. But they couldn't figure out a way to make that work into the many paths in that quest. And I do want to point out that another key difference is in the trailer, Jackie is sniping and kind of covering you, which is a smart thing. Like, I don't trust this lady, Jackie, can you watch? And so a big part of the dialogue is when they interrogate you, they ask you with a gun to your head, is anyone else with you? And that scene carries no weight in the final game because you can't bring Jackie along. So there's nothing to lie about. It's just you. And that's the truth.
Yeah. God, that's so ridiculous.
It's really unfortunate.
The wait, BPC, what happened at the end of that quest for you?
I honestly don't even remember what happened in that full quest.
You're trying to get the bot from the maelstrom, and it's the question is how you go about doing so.
Yeah, I think I remember doing that. And so you go there and you get there and you talk with the maelstroms. I remember I managed to not piss off the maelstrom agents enough so that when the Militech people stormed like the place, I was actually fighting with them against them.
Right.
And it turns out like the Militech lady she just pulled the trigger too fast and sent her own people in, and we just like murked them, and then I was able to get the bot back out, and then I gave it to the lowly guy that she was trying to insinuate was like a spy or whatever. And it's basically like I inverted and I helped him out in the process of like spoiling the mean annoying lady or whatever, I think is what happened for me.
Okay. Yeah, I got the same thing. So
But I wasn't even like trying for that specifically. Like I just played the game and that's just what happens.
God, now okay, like now, like if you don't side with if you don't get the Militech lady at the end, like you don't get that content like of her like asking or like meeting her again, because like you just get that guy and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's what happened with me. I was like after that meeting with the lady, I don't think she showed up again. As far as I remember.
I think in the story, like she basically gets fucked, like, and like thrown out of like Militech or something.
Something, or just demoted somewhere where she can never get re-promoted or some shit.
But that doesn't count so much on my end, since I sided with her, and then she was like a weird hookup option that she texted me out of the blue, and then I hung out with her at a sketchy motel, and that was it. That was my reward for siding with her, I guess. And just to maybe go into a little more detail, if we're using this example, then I told her I would do it her way and help out. So she gave me, this is the funniest thing, she gave me a bugged shard, like, oh yeah, use my money. And then Via's like, well, obviously there's a bug on it. And she's like, yeah, there's a bug on it. It's not going to do anything. And that's hilarious because every other time you pay in that game, you don't hand over shards of money. You're able to like transmit it. Like V makes a sort of hand motion and you like transmit the money like electronically. So the fact that you hand them this credit thing to pay for this expensive item is so silly. And of course it was a serious bug. It kills their hackers, and then the building goes into lockdown and you kill all the maelstrom, and then on your way out you run into the lady. She's like, oh, you helped me, you bugged them and killed them all, you got balls, cool, thanks for the help. I won't worry about the bot that went missing, wink wink, bye. And then we hooked up much later, and that was it.
I didn't even think about that shard thing.
Oh yeah, but it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like what the fuck? Like it's literally the only time in the game where you get money from a shard. Yeah.
And the fact that they're very suspicious of you the whole time, but they just plug it in and it literally kills their net runners. Like, okay. God,
so yeah, the first part of this game just feels like an entirely different game now.
With all the options, right? And we don't see any of that as the story moves out.
And just even the little things like that shard. So it's like, what the fuck happened?
And it maybe it was from a vision of a game that did not come to be.
Yeah.
So let's take that. Actually, I'm gonna make a note here. That was minor spoilers. We talked about the big one, or the big quest at the beginning that a lot of us saw in the trailer. I definitely think we should spend some time diving down to the main story itself.
God, here we go.
This is a minor warning if you're listening to this, you haven't played the game, and you still want to go play it after hearing us whine about it.
Good luck to you. Godspeed.
Yeah, so let's talk about the main plot. Just a little spoiler warning. I'll give a quick summary if you're listening and you don't want to play the game or whatever. So we talked about V comes from these various life paths, and then
quote unquote
what happens is that you become a mercenary via montage. We don't get to play those, but your job is these fixers, these rich, successful crime experts give you jobs to do, whether it's to go shoot people or to go steal things. And I guess that's V's main ambition. Since you're kind of a malleable character, V is just someone's like, I want people to remember me. I want to be the best merc ever. And the merc is this sort of badass life where you get to go to secret bars to meet with your fixers and things like that. So that all sounds very cyberpunk. But unfortunately, it becomes less about being a merc and more about not dying, because a mission goes badly, and this magical shard that has the digital recreation of Keanu Reeves' character Johnny Silverhand gets implanted into V's body, and it's taking over, trying to turn V's body into a vessel for this character. And so it just becomes built around V trying to survive and figure out how to get Keanu Reeves out of their head. And there's a lot to dive into here. I think let's start maybe. Why don't we talk about just why this story didn't feel very compelling? I know for me, I think that just the premise itself, as I described it, is kind of flawed, in that you're not really fighting the corpos or doing anything. It just becomes self-preservation, which is really not that fascinating. It's just like V talking to various corpo experts who might know about the chip, and you just kind of jump around. It's V and Johnny's excellent adventure, just like who can maybe help us. And I think that's a big part of why it just doesn't feel that exciting. It's just like, oh, V has real bad headaches, guys. We got to find someone to get this chip out. And that's just the main story. So all this thing about the glitz and the glamour, about being the best merc, it just becomes secondary.
Yeah, it just gets thrown out the window. Even it's in a lot of the marketing. Like, you always hear V going like, I'm gonna be the biggest and baddest in Night City. I'm gonna make Night City mine, or whatever. And you don't make Night City yours at all.
Just like it becomes. I just don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want Keanu Reeves to take over my brain. That's not very. Yeah.
Or like sort of like depending on when you get to the ending and some decisions you make towards there, like it like magically sort of like you do, where all of a sudden you just go from being like oh, they're pretty good at like killing people and stealing things, to they have the most money and respect in the whole damn city, but are still doing the same work for some fucking reason.
Yeah. Oh my god, you're right.
So like, yeah, so the fucking ending is shit and makes no fucking sense anyway. And also, going back to like the starting point is, how the fuck is like, oh, I just want to be the coolest merc in the whole city. How is that the main fucking plot point? Like, out of all the fucking themes, there's like, oh no, I just want to shoot and kill people the best. That's what I want to do. Like, I don't know. That just felt like the dumbest motivation. Like, there was no like, oh, this corporation killed my family or did this to me or something. It was like, no, I just like, I'm coming in and I just want to make hella money and kill hella people and then die.
I mean, to their credit, I think that's the attempt at showing the sort of low life thing that, Jackie, especially through Jackie, and so Jackie being V's like best friend and fellow merc buddy, that you both come from whatever reason you ended up there, that the only way you can be meaningful, like they feel the only way that they can make money and be successful, is this violent, dangerous life of crime. But you're right, it's a very flimsy premise, like, and I think it shows that that's why V seems like such a bland character, and I get it, like, you're a self-insert character, but like, taking all that away, like, what do you do then? So you got some gigs, one went bad, you're dying of a mysterious ailment, a technical device is killing you, and before that, that was your aspiration, was like, I want to be good at killing people or whatever, if you make the most money. You're right, it's very paper thin, and as we mentioned, it doesn't ever feel like V was really struggling. You start out doing I-8 and you're killing people comes naturally, and you keep doing it. The only reason that there's any sort of obstacle is because of the relic, as it's called, that this chip that's killing V.
Yeah, I mean, even though like even the whole I want to be the biggest baddest merc shit, like, yeah, it's flimsy, but like at least it's like open ended, and I think like what they could have done and I don't want to go too much into like what they could have done because that's like a whole can of worms.
Yeah.
But it could have been like I think a better, like a more interesting premise would be like you do want to be the biggest baddest, but there's just all these gangs and stuff, and you like, and it would have been really interesting to do like tons of quests, like for those gangs, and like sort of side with who you want to be, you know how the end of like Fallout New Vegas, you have the choice of like
Oh yeah, which
taking on everyone with like Yes Man and like yourself, or like you can side with the NCR or like the Legion. Like it could have been like that, except like with all the different gangs in the city, and like they could have expanded on you know like what they like the backstories of the gangs and stuff and all that kind of stuff. But we just get shoehorned into like I want Keanu Reeves out of my head.
it's a good point because what you described would at least have greater scope in that you're interacting with a lot of people, and that you do get to have impact on the city itself. Whereas saving your own self, you kind of bounce around, and it's true. You get surface level contact with a lot of the different gangs for a variety of reasons, but the main story doesn't really delve into them because you don't need to. Because who cares how the Maelstrom make their money when it's just I don't want to die from this mysterious Arasaka chip.
Yeah.
So
And like
yeah,
meeting
it's a good point.
the Pacifica people is like literally like they have honestly the Voodoo Boys have like I would say one like the more interesting like backstories of all of the gangs and stuff. Like they're all
I agree,
shoved
yeah.
into like what pretty much like the poorest part of the entire city. And there's a lot of things you could do with like social disparity and like racial disparity and all that stuff. And like I think someone brings like one of the reviews brings it up, like the GameSpot review. The reviewer brings up like their name Voodoo Boys isn't actually like they don't name themselves the Voodoo Boys, but that's what other people call them. And that's like a really interesting like tidbit, like like you can go into this gang and how they like sort of how you oh my god, blanking out now.
That's all good.
But it's sort of like how the outside perspective versus like getting like an actual look into how the Voodoo Boys operates, like that could have been super interesting. But instead you just go there and you're like, hey, I want to get this chip out of my head, dude. It's like it's giving me migraines and sometimes I get nosebleeds and shit, and it's kind of annoying. And that's it.
Give me migraines,
Yeah.
and every now and again I have to hear about some dude talk about his dick.
And it's true that they had a very interesting, like, they're sort of involved, like, they know more about the chip, and they're the ones that are the most tech oriented, and that they're the hackers, and people don't really know about them because they call it real space, that they want to exist mostly virtually
Yeah.
and things like that. And you're right, it doesn't really become that interesting. They send you to do an errand and then don't care about you getting messed up there, and then they send you to do another errand, and then V is also put in great peril because of that choice, and that's it. And they
Yeah.
don't really you're right that they don't really serve a big purpose despite having a pretty interesting backstory.
And I also want to touch on like the fact that they're like the most tech oriented, and that's like an interesting angle of like tech is like at this point like basically magic. Like so you can like have like the whole Voodoo Boys thing, like there's like parallels there with like voodoo magic almost, and like the magic of like technology, and it's like it's just so interesting. But like I mean clearly like in this like 30-minute conversation 30-minute chunk of conversation we've thought about this more than like all the writers in CDPR have, I guess.
Or at least
Yeah.
more than the devs who approve the rest of the writing.
Yeah,
There's a good chance
true,
the
yeah.
writers could have been going on this shit for fucking days, but the dev was like, "No, that's dumb. I want to focus on the three different Keanu Reeves and him talking about his dick." Yeah, they're just obsessed with talking about dicks. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah,
You get
okay,
Specifically,
two
only
dick
3 options of
choices.
dicks.
Two.
Yeah, okay.
There's
And it's the
only
same
one
dick in different
opinion,
sizes.
Steve.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't want to rap on the writers because they're probably like under the fucking boot heel of like the stupid management and shit.
Yeah, it's hard to say what. There's a lot of potential, I guess, that wasn't really brought out. I think it's worth noting too that well, um, their involvement in the main plot, the Voodoo Boys, is that they help you get involved with Alt, right? This big
Yeah,
mysterious
this
character that she pulled a major Kusanagi and apparently got uploaded her consciousness into the internet, and she's trapped behind that firewall. But you get back at her, and even that, you're right. It feels more like magic. It doesn't feel really techy. It's just she's this omniscient magic being that's really good at hacking things, and even talks in a big reverby voice,
yeah
and appears to you as like this glowing, emanating figure in the net. And all she does is she's pretty Deus Ex Machina. That like, well, she has the magical tech, so she's the one that can save you, and she's the one that can help take down Arasaka. And and you get some backstory on her, but it's like, yeah, she was Johnny's girlfriend, and then she's also a hacker or whatever. It's so weird. It doesn't feel that convincing. I think even though those are some pretty cyberpunk themes, right? We're talking
yeah
about existing without as a human, but without your physical form and things like that. But it just like in practice, all it means is, well, yeah, she transcended her humanity, so she can help us do shit. You know,
yeah
it's very
pretty,
surface
like,
level.
it's so disappointing because like just thinking about it, like, you know, you can go so many interesting angles with like with all this stuff, like Alt being an AI and like being able to, like, I guess spoilers for the ending, like merge with her at the end and like becoming a part of this like this super AI, I guess. But it's just that's it. They just shout a theme and then never talk about it.
Yeah, you don't even know what that entails. Like they're just like, yeah, well, so V, you don't got a body because it's kind of messed up. Do you wanna just join Alt
You wanna
with the other AIs?
You wanna
just
ride
use?
shotgun?
Yeah,
in
and
the
then they
fucking
never.
net?
No one knows what that means. And like, and because you know the game makes a good point that the net is this specialized kind of runoff thing. You really don't know what that entails.
Yeah, because you never explore the net.
Yeah.
You know.
Sometimes it means plugging into a thing and you see a colorful landscape. Like, so, yeah, it's definitely too bad, and I think all that really conspires to main plot events that are super scripted. So not only do our dialogue choices not really matter, but there's really not a lot of freedom in how the missions play out. So while driving around is nice because at least we have our, you know, if we have to clear out an enemy warehouse, we have a lot of freedom, at least in how we do that. Whereas the main quests feel very, very train track. You don't have a lot of freedom, you know, a lot of scripted event type things. And it's just too bad. Like, all right, well, there's a big parade coming up, so there's going to be a heist. And here's how the heist's going to go down. You just do X, Y, and Z. You shoot this guy, go here. Shoot that guy. Okay, this guy, you can fight him. All right, it's over.
Yeah, there's no even different way you can take out, like, at least in other games, like they give you like, okay, there's these 3 guys, just take them out however you want. You can snipe them, you can sneak up to them, you can just run up to them and blast their kneecaps or some shit. But like in this one, it's just like, okay, you go to this one and then you go to the next one and then you go to the next one and that's it.
Yeah, and at one point he's like, you better figure out how to reach this guy. He's kind of in a weird place, but no, it's just a totally linear path of climbing and hiding from drones.
You just jump on some air conditioner units and that's it.
So
and then the fancy ninja dude jumps on and speaks a bunch of Japanese and then steals the girl.
Yeah. But it's so disappointing because like that whole the whole parade sequence is just so visually interesting. I think it's very God, isn't Ghost in the Shell 2 have like
Ghost in the
the
Shell 2
parade thing?
definitely has a big parade.
Yeah.
Yes,
and I'm pretty
it
sure
could have been fun. That's
like 99% sure that's where they got the fucking inspiration from.
It's true, and I agree that like that the premise of that quest, which you have to kidnap this corpo high-ranking woman from the big parade that they're hosting, and you're working with her former security. It sounds really cool, but yeah, in practice, the heist quote unquote prep is staking out a big building, sneaking in it, planning some shit, and then like yeah, during the parade itself, you just run around and take out some dudes and fight a boss, and then you get some dialogue. It's really just
What do you even plan? I don't remember.
you have to go. There's some Arasaka building where they're building the floats, like a tech area.
Yeah, I remember that part.
You scope that out and go in there, and that's part of like your heist prep. Is that you put a bug in the float or something like that.
You put a bug in the float so you can get into like their security system and comms, so you can figure out, and then you figure out like who's doing security, what is all that, and like how it's going on and whatnot, so that you can figure out how to like yeah, so that you have to take out the 3 snipers because apparently the magic ninja dude can't avoid them or do something, and then that's how he gets on the float, and then it goes from there. It's like very, very basic, and then there's things leading up to that, talking to like Wakako, the one fixer, where like she gets you to that point. She's like, oh well, I know where all this is being stored, and you can go there, and then she gets you all. I think she also gets you like the program or what are they, the demon, to allow you to hack into the security mainframe or something like that.
Right. You do
And
go
that's-
around and you prep the security.
Yeah, but I mean that's the same thing. It's not like you get to do it as like, oh well, if you don't do enough prep, then you have to do this and you have to fight where it's like, no, you go, you do the thing. Okay, we're done. Now you go to this next thing. Okay, cool, you did that. Here's the next thing, and it's everything is just linear and singular.
Yeah, the same thing, and the big quest where you get the relic. It in of itself is a big heist, and I love a good heist. And there is all this prep. You read back this magical brain dance, which is like a the
Oh yeah.
kind of cool system where you get to relive a moment as someone did it, but you can do it from third person and kind of pick up on other clues in the room. And so that's cool, kind of crime solving, tech. So you get to do that. It's very exciting. And even the big heist. This is the big climactic part of the story that you're getting the relic, and this is supposed to be, the big break, and it all goes south. But even that, like, yeah, it's like you said. There isn't any freedom in how you do it. The heist just means that you just get to do little pre-quests. Yeah, and even the heist format doesn't really stick around later on. Like the rest of the game,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can think of the end game is kind of like one, and even that, it blew my mind. I picked the rogue ending where she helps do the final assault at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And she just, because she's her and because we're told she's cool, she just magically has like gargantuan amount of resources, and there's just no prep. Just the next day, she literally has like a satellite destroyed and a ton
Wait,
of
really?
gear. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the rogue
it's
path.
wild.
What the fuck? She just snaps her fingers and a satellite
well,
gets blown
Alt,
up. Or?
Alt blows up a satellite, which is supposed to kill communications, and then, but the reason Alt's able to blow up the satellite is because she has connections to the satellite people. I don't know. It's really, really, really poorly done. Literally, it's actually done that V/Johnny falls asleep for a day, and then you wake up, and Rogue's like, "All right, here's how the heist is going."
Jesus
And
Christ.
you do it. Yeah, so it's really unfortunate that you just kind of go around doing stuff. I think is the bottom line of how the plot feels. You interrogate the scientist who made the relic, and that doesn't even lead you anything. You go through a heist. I guess it's like a heist to steal him from the corpo company that's trying to poach him, and then you just confront him, and he's like, "I can't tell you. I don't know. That's crazy. Is that what's happening to you? Damn, dude. Like,
Damn,
Dude, that sucks, bro.
fascinating.
yeah." And that's it. So you move on to the next person, and so, and even that in of itself, I would say it has potential to be fun. Like, yeah, it's linear. Yeah, you're just like stealing stuff and you're not really doing anything. But I think a big reason why that stuff doesn't feel so effective is that Johnny, the main character who's in your head, is just not a pleasant character to interact with.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, backstory if you're not familiar. Johnny Silverhand is like a big legend. He is a successful terrorist, and that he bombed and killed a ton of people with a nuke of this big corporation. And in retaliation, they trapped his consciousness onto this chip, and then through a variety of reasons, you steal it and it gets planted into the protagonist.
Which I'm not gonna lie, that plot point and go through that, like where he just literally set off a nuke in the middle of a city, I didn't quite understand because they kind of downplayed that and the severity of it,
Yeah,
like in
Yeah.
the game. Because
In
it's
fact, I wouldn't even say that they don't even, they just mention it like as the thing that happened, and like we don't see the effects of it at all.
well,
you
yeah.
can go to Ground Zero and there's just a cool little memorial of an old building.
Well, no. The whole plot point is that the Arasaka Tower got exploded and they just built back over it. They just rebuilt
Yeah,
back
but you
over
get
it.
to go. You get to visit the little. They made an exhibit over the
Yeah,
old one.
okay,
But
yeah,
yeah, it's
I remember
glossed
the
over.
memorial.
Like you're. I think you're supposed to like. I mean, I guess they do a good job. Do you like Johnny or not? But it is something that's kind of glossed over. Like, hey, Johnny, remember when you killed 10,000 people in a night?
Remember you literally nuked a city?
And then
That's dope, bro. Like,
And then
oh my
it's
god.
you have a conversation where like, Johnny, you killed a ton of people, and he's like, whatever, you kill people too. You think it's a big difference? And you can't refute that. I'm like, yeah, it's a big difference. I've killed maybe 100 people since this game started, and you killed literally 10, and they were people shooting at me. Yeah, that's a big difference, but you don't get to refute that. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Also, just the sheer like logistics and physics behind igniting a nuclear weapon in the middle of a city, but only one building was really affected,
Yeah.
and then a lot of other people just sort of magically died, or I don't know. Yeah, it was just like a nuke went off in the middle of a city, and there's like, oh, oops, well, bring out the dustpan.
Like it should have like for the most part it should have leveled Night City, like the entirety of it.
Or a big
But I guess
part of it,
not.
yeah.
Like I guess like maybe like the nuke isn't like a big nuke. It's just like a baby nuke, I guess. But they never explain that or anything.
No,
so
the
it's like
details are never given.
yeah, it's just like it's a fucking nuke. Like that's it. Like he drops a fucking nuke. It's
And so the thing-
ridiculous.
Like, so he's very clearly a terrorist. He's killed innocent people for his goals. And then
Yeah.
we're still supposed to kind of accept that he's the coolest of the cool, right? So he's a rocker boy, which comes from the RPG, that he's a musician and he makes music against the corpos. And yeah, I think that at least regardless of how they represent him, like you're supposed to accept that he's a legend, that people think he's the coolest. He was such a badass on guitar and, pulled off the big FU to the corpos by setting off this nuke. And in practice, it doesn't really... I don't know. I didn't feel convinced that he was a cool rock star. Like he just, in your head, he's just kind of constantly judgmental, and he talks in a lot of slang, but it just sounds really forced. And
Yeah.
I don't know. He's supposed to be this larger than life character and kind of morally ambiguous. And in practice, he just felt like like a grump. Like he was just like, "Damn, V, you really gonna do that? Wow!" And that was it. Like the whole game, really.
Yeah, no, pretty much.
Yeah, just Keanu Reeves in your head, constantly judging you, giving you bad advice, and just being annoying as fuck.
like I like how they I like how they put him out to be like at least what you think is gonna happen is like this super interesting character, like this flawed but like still likable character, but then he just ends up being like your grandpa that's like, oh, back in my day.
No, it's absolutely right. Yeah, he's totally that. It's like, oh well, I would have done this differently. Yeah, it's true. And again, like maybe there is a place for a character like that. Like, oh yeah, don't meet your heroes. This guy who you thought was a cool, sort of Robin Hood type was just an asshole who happened to know how to play a bit of guitar and was successful on this one endeavor. But considering his role, that he's there the whole time and judging you so constantly, it's really, really grating that just putting up with him, to be honest.
Yeah.
And they do try to kind of make him more convincing later. Like you do this sort of the Johnny redemption tour where he's trying to make amends with his friends who are still alive.
Yeah.
And that just becomes like a really shitty, like getting the band back together, like 80s movie thing. And I kind of liked it just because it was better than the rest of the game, but I don't think it was particularly compelling as like what it's like to be a musician and what what the high life is like. It's
Yeah.
just like this
Yeah.
weird fun diversion.
The best part, the most enjoyable part of the whole fucking game. Press F to play sick fucking
Fucking
solo.
solo.
Like,
Oh my god.
are you?
Press F to
that was the
shred.
highlight. Yeah, press F to shred. That's the highlight of the game. That was the best thing. Is just
'Cause it
that
was
one
so
line
absurd. It was
because
so
it's
bad.
just such a big fucking meme.
And it's
like-
not even a solo. Like, I'm not gonna split hairs here and talk about rock music or whatever, but I wouldn't have even called that a guitar solo because they show him animating it, so he can't actually shred and like play fast licks and stuff. So they just show him playing like a little lead part over something else, and that's your sick solo. It's not even a solo. Like,
But you pressed F, bro.
You pressed F fucking hard.
Or there's the option that you can just not press F and just fuck up completely.
yeah, what
Wait,
happens? if you don't press
what
F?
happens?
Do you just
I
you don't play that part? I don't know.
I don't fucking know.
Dude, like how can you not press F when that shows up? It's like
Oh,
it's
it's
like
like cool.
press
Am I
F to
finally gonna hear Johnny play something that's not just like a boring rip? No. And something I want to note too. I think that his existence as a character and his premise is something interesting, and I do want to talk about this. That the game has all these cool concepts, and we only see it at face value. This is very true, I think, for Johnny, and that. So, think about what he's been through, right? That he commits a crazy terrorist act, and then he wakes up in someone's head is just a voice in their head. But that's not really explored. Like, yeah, he's upset, and he kind of has a tenuous relationship with V, but that kind of introductory phase is very short.
yeah.
And it just becomes you arguing, and you kind of just accept that he accepts that he's a voice in your head. And the big one for me is that he's not obviously really himself from 50 years ago. It's supposedly his consciousness was transferred on a computer that simulated himself. And that's like the service they have, right? Like, if you're rich enough, you don't have to die because they can make a copy of you. But that's not necessarily you. I think that would have been interesting. Is like, is this really Johnny? Like, obviously he's spiteful because the real Johnny died, and this is just a simulation. And so maybe that's why his use of slang is so cringy, because it's a computer trying to sound like Johnny, and no one can be like Johnny. That's not explored at all. When you meet his friends, he literally plays his little corny lick, and then his best friend is like, "You're Johnny Silverhand." There's no fucking way. Even though he died, and even though tons of people can play the guitar, you're Johnny.
Yeah.
Right? He believes you, and just off that alone. So we as the player are supposed to believe that, yeah, this is 100 fucking percent. This is Johnny's fucking Silverhand, no doubt about it. That never gets explored.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like that they could have dove deep into that. Like, what makes Johnny Johnny, and like to a larger extent, like what makes a person a person. Like, is it just their consciousness? Is it like their memories or whatever, or is it like being like in a physical body or something? That's like,
according to Johnny, it's the impressive cock.
that's what
To be
makes
fair,
me
Johnny
human.
doesn't even know what makes Johnny himself. He has no purpose. He's just always angry.
Yeah.
Also, I think I've talked about that. Like, okay, this is kind of derailing. Going back to that more like cyberpunk things. That the idea of, again, of Johnny getting like caught into like uploading this thing, like that whole idea. Like they hinted at like part of the whole reason that program was like it was more sinister than like, oh well, rich people can just upload their consciousness and live forever. Like I could have sworn like there was either parts of it that hinted it's like, well, actually what Arasaka was doing is trying to like the same thing that like alt kind of does at the end, where they're taking people's consciousnesses and then putting them into like merging together into a super computing like AI for their own purposes, or that they can take a person's consciousness and then like change the things they want about it or whatever in their ultimate, and then like re-upload it like either into their body or a new body or something, so that they can show them do other things. Like there was way more like interesting, like more sinister things behind it, but instead it's no, he nuked a whole bunch of people, so they took him out of his own head, they put him on a chip, now he's in your head, and now all he does is bag on you and talk about his dick.
He only talks about his dick once, thankfully, but it's pretty bad and
Yeah.
notable when he does.
I feel like he talks about his dick at least more than that, but it was
I only got
annoying
one.
enough that I got fucking sick and tired of him.
And I want to note too that the big hype for Johnny is that he's Keanu Reeves, and it's funny because he feels like a very amalgamation of Keanu Reeves roles, right? So his signature gun is a handgun. He twirls it around. He's real fucking good with this gun. So maybe a little John Wick, but he's also a technological construct and living in this cyberistic future. So maybe a little Neo, and then he's the badass rocker dude with the long hair and the shades and the cool dude bro personality. So
The robot arm.
Yeah, the robot arm.
That doesn't do anything fancy. It just is a robot arm.
Yeah. So it sounds like it'd be a cool role for him, but like, I honestly, I guess I like
kinda-
Johnny a little better just because of the novelty. Like, holy shit, Keanu Reeves is in here,
Yeah,
calling me a
yeah.
slut or whatever, and that's kind of funny. But
He does do that. I forgot.
in practice, like, I don't think it's honestly a good role. Like, playing the asshole mean boy is not really his thing, right? Like, all the memes about Keanu being this genuine sad dude. It's not Johnny. Johnny's loud and obnoxious.
Yeah. I mean, it's, like, easily could have been like a really interesting character and like played really interesting by Keanu Reeves. But yeah, all he does is just say mean shit, and that's it. And like, hey, I hate corpos, and that's it. But like, they definitely could have, like, I don't know, they could have definitely just fleshed him out more. But he does end up just being an angry guy.
It's kind of sad. Yeah. So even when he makes good, right? I called it the redemption arc because it's just him trying to make things right for people. It's just him being like, "Hey, we did cool shit. You want to do cool shit again? Hey, Rogue, like, I loved you. Can you want to go on a date? I never did that because I was an asshole." And then she's like, "This is kind of weird because it's 50 years later and I'm not in love with you." And then that's it. So we don't really learn anything. We already knew he loved her and he was into her.
Yeah. I mentioned it a while back, but it just felt like his redemption arc kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It was very forced. It felt
Yeah.
very, very forced. Like,
Like,
I
there's
I
no-
knew the game was going to lead into it, and I knew it was going to happen, but it never felt like it actually like eased or progressed like in a sensible way. It's just like, all right, asshole, judgmental, annoying, asshole. Okay, now it's time for him to start being a nice guy.
Yeah, and it's like near the end of the fucking game.
Very late.
It would have been way more interesting if, like, asshole, and then he has the redemption arc maybe in the middle of the game, and then like he starts lightening up towards the end, and you actually form like a genuine bond. But no, he's just the world's biggest asshole until the last 10 seconds where he kind of is not.
Yeah. And it's true because you suddenly make really good amends. Like, at least the way I had played it out, like, you have a heart to heart with him, and
Yeah,
you go to
yeah.
his like death place and talk about it, and even though I just to be sympathetic or just I don't know, I was just didn't say anything too mean. Like, whatever, the dude's dead and I hate him, but I'm not gonna badmouth him when he's
Yeah,
sitting here contemplating his own mortality, right?
You got a raw fucking deal, so I'll give him that.
Yeah, and then you just make nice with him. Like, he's like, you know what, V, like, I learned a lot from seeing you. Like, really, people didn't really care about me because I was awful to them, and it's like, it was an eye-opening experience to see someone who was actually kind and seeing how they live.
Yeah.
And he talks about that, and you're like, man, I wish we had had this conversation before. Oh, well, it never came up. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't really amount to much. And in fact, in the next quest, when he's talking to his friends, like, so how do you get along with V? Like, oh, we're not on good terms right now. And I was like, what? What happened?
Yeah,
like,
it's
that's not what happened.
It's such a mixed fucking bag because
And
it's
it's
like
probably just the timing of that quest, like, didn't line up right, or how
Yeah.
it wasn't how it was supposed to be. It's just, yeah, it's really unfortunate. And he has, and the thing is, Johnny has so much more character than, V is so bland that he carries a lot of the story, and it's just not pleasant.
yeah, like it's even more jarring because like you can totally just be an asshole to him. Like, you can just talk back to him for the entire game, and like whenever you mention him to like other characters, and you're like, yeah, I fucking hate him, dude. He's in my head, and he's such a pain in the ass. And then like literally like at like near the finish line, you're like, he just tells you like, you're like my first ever friend, dude. Like, if I had a real body, I'd like give you a hug, and I don't give hugs or whatever. And like it's just a heel turn. and it's
Right. It's
like
just
you get
not.
whiplash from like just
It
how
just
out
shows
of
that
nowhere.
choices don't mean anything. You can be
Yeah,
really mean to Johnny and it doesn't change much, or you can try to be nice to him and do what he wants, and it doesn't have that much impact. Um, I thought that there was like a rating of it because the game kind of alludes to that. When you pause at the menu, it talks about like
yeah, yeah,
how your
yeah.
disease and stuff. But apparently, to get the Johnny quote unquote ending and you perform the final mission with Rogue, it's just did you do the Johnny redemption quest? That's it.
Yeah, like it shows up like as a percentage, like a implied that it will increase with every single like dialogue choice you have with him, but then it only
Absolutely.
really increases like at that redemption arc
Yeah,
near
it's
the end of the
crazy.
fucking game.
Yeah, so it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I never understood those progressions. Or
Not
that
fun.
conveniently missing spot in your tech tree. That was also pretty wild.
Yeah,
Didn't I remember we were playing that we were both talking. We was like, man, I wonder what this mystery spot in the tech tree is gonna be. And we were like literally wondering that for like 3 days, and then
and
eventually
we
like I
finished the
beat it,
game.
and I was
Oh,
like, oh,
Is nothing.
oh, they just they just literally left it in and couldn't remove it because they were fucked.
What I mean the in the gameplay demo there were six because there's constitution in the gameplay demo, but it's not in the real game. So
yeah,
I'm
they
assuming
they
like
merged it with body.
yeah, I'm assuming they last second they were like, fuck guys, like constitution and like body, it's like kind of the same thing. Let's just make them the same thing. And then they just didn't bother to
It
remove the UI element for it.
didn't have time to. Yeah, that was. Ugh. It just shows again. It's just this recurring theme of lack of cohesion, lack of polish. But
Yeah, it was fucking. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, I think just really bad usage of Keanu Reeves.
it's really unfortunate. I got the Johnny ending where he took over V's body, and I kind of like that just because it again goes on a long diversion where in the X amount of time he gets an apartment and befriends a local little kid who is like big into music, and he's like tutoring him on what it's like to be a musician and learning guitar. And I just like that because again, it's super generic, shitty '80s rocker movie, but that felt better than the actual story, so it was nice.
Wait, that's the Johnny ending. That's actually sounds kind of nice.
It's kind of cute. So yeah, so what happened was, yeah, I chose that V's body is unusable for V. It's really Johnny's body now. It's been too long. Even magical alt can't save it. You get the choice who ends up in the body and who joins alt's magical being. Um, and so I don't know. It's actually surprising in those dialogues. So since I picked the Johnny routes, I controlled Johnny in these, and so V,
Mm.
I got to see V in the third person, and V was like really mad when I was started moving towards joining alt. Like, what if Johnny's like, "Fuck it, I'll just join alt," and V's like, "Hell no, you're supposed to get my body. We didn't agree to this," which I thought was weird. So
That's
yeah,
actually
so
pretty. It's actually kind of interesting.
yeah, that's. I think if you do some of the other endings, you control V through this sequence, and V decides who gets the body and who doesn't.
Yeah,
Uh,
I did the I sided with the Pan Am ending, so I'll go into that after yours, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, so the Johnny ending, Johnny ends up in the body, which to me made the most sense. Like, if V can't use this body anymore, at least give it to Johnny. And like, V, you didn't do anything anyway, so you can go join the AI conglomerate. And yeah, so in V's body, I guess Johnny's living in some apartment. The kid next door, you kind of befriend him, and the kid's like, "I want to be a rocker. I'm writing music." And oh man, my fingers always hurt playing. Like, is that normal? And like all this stuff. And then Johnny goes to the store, buys a really nice guitar, and then what happens is just buys it, has the kid drive him around, and then leaves the guitar with the kid, and just dramatically leaves on some bus looking out into the sunlit. Um, it was notable that he pays respects to V and Rogue, and it's just like I felt sad. I was like, dude, poor V did nothing. Poor girl just like tried to get into some gigs. Shit went hella south, and now she's gone. It's
Yeah,
kind
no,
of tragic, but tragic in like a pathetic way. I don't know. I felt sad. But I was like, damn, homegirl really didn't do much. Like,
yeah, she got a raw deal.
yes. And so, uh, yeah, and then just Johnny leaves Night City and he goes off to, it kind of implies that he's trying to be a better person. Like, he catches the kid smoking and he's like, hey, don't do that shit. even though he smokes like in your head the whole game.
Yeah.
You know, so it's trying to be like that, and it's kind of cute. So then the kid's like, "Oh, you left your guitar in my car," and he's like, "No, I didn't leave. I didn't forget anything." Something like that. It's really corny. I think it's also funny. You get to choose which guitar. There was a very Stratocaster-looking guitar, which is similar to one Johnny had, and there's another one. Of course, they have in-game names. I picked the other one because I was like, "Nah, kid, you don't want the Johnny guitar. Be unique." But in the cutscene, the kid was holding the Johnny.
Oh my god. Oh my fucking god.
Oh man. So yeah, that's the Johnny ending.
Your choices matter in this video game.
And as if that would really make a big difference, like which of the two fancy guitars you buy for the kid.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like even the little choices, like they could have just done a model swap.
Right.
And and it's like,
that might
what
have just
the
been a bug.
fuck?
I don't know. It was just it was just so funny to me. Like at the very end, like of course the kid has the guitar I didn't pick. Like, of course. I also think it's funny. Again, this is just me but you buy this expensive guitar and then you don't buy a case for it, so it's just like sitting in this kid's thing like precariously, and then he's waving it at you. It's like,
Do you even like buy an amp or anything, or do amps even exist in this? Like,
they should, yeah, they
in
do.
the future?
You see them in the game. The guitar
Okay.
technology hasn't changed, but yeah, you don't buy the kid anything, just a very expensive guitar.
Oh, it's like this is all I got, kid.
Yeah,
I only
pretty
got
much.
pocket lint after this.
I mean, it's still kind of cute. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
You get to look at the cheaper guitars, and then Johnny nitpicks them. Like, this one has fret buzz on the low string. Oh, this one's made of cheap wood. Like, where's the real guitars? But then it's cute because he wanted the nice guitar for the kid. So.
That's actually, I don't know. That's like that's actually, I would go as far as to say that's a really nice ending. But like, it just feels so rushed.
It's just
to,
very
like-
disconnected from those. So what does
Yeah.
that have to say about everything V did? That Johnny, okay, so Johnny gets a second shot at being a better person and maybe a new musician, but that's it. Like what? It just feels really disconnected from all this shit about the corpos and everything. Like
Yeah.
actually to the point where the kid's like, "Hey, my dad said there might be a corpo war," and I forget what I picked, but Johnny was like, "I don't know about that. I don't care about that anymore." Like that's literally like how
What's a
disconnected
corpo?
it is. He's just like, I don't care about corpos anymore, and it's
That's-
just like, then what's
okay,
the
that's
point
really
of
weird.
everything else that happened? Like it's just this cute, corny ending. Like
I guess they could have tied it in, sort of like, oh, V made Johnny a better person, but
yeah, that's
I mean,
what they were
you-
trying to say for sure. Like obviously that was his first. Yeah, like he doesn't smoke. He really tries to help the kid. Like the kid has an abusive dad, and then you
Right.
even tell the kid like. He's like, I wish I was strong like you so I could beat him up. And then you just tell him, like, you're not going to feel any better if you beat up your dad. Trust me. And, like, it's just Johnny being better. So, yeah, it feels good. Like, yeah, this asshole guy is not an asshole. He's, making a new life. And he had to change genders, but that's okay, I guess. And
Maybe.
it's just like, I don't know, it just feels so disconnected from everything.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
Even
I
that,
can
too.
totally
Like,
see that.
maybe the horror of, like, he was a badass dude and he bragged about his dick. And now he's, in my case, was a somewhat traditionally attractive woman as V, and like at one point you put on glasses and you can just be like, it's kind of weird. And that's it. That's the extent of Johnny's potential dysphoria being in someone else's body the rest of his life.
Well, what BBC? What ending did you get?
I finished with Rogue and did that shit, which again doesn't actually really fucking matter anyway. I didn't learn about some of the other possibilities until like the end. I don't know, the way the ending was handled was again very, very annoying. But like no, you end up like beating it and then yeah, I chose to make.
You got V ended up with the body though, right?
Yeah, so yeah, I did the same thing where I made Johnny go merge with Alt and make her stronger so she can go rule the world and kill everyone as an AI or whatever and merge into Terminator or whatever happens. And then V goes back into her body, which again confused the shit out of me because for like the past 5 minutes, Alt went on this giant monologue like, nope, No, the thing modified her brain. It's not going to work anymore. There's no way for you to go back to your body. Nope, it's all Johnny's now. Nope, nothing we can do. Sorry. Nope, you're just dead. Screw for you. And then you just go back into it anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that in the final cutscene, like when you're trying to load, alt into the thing that will help save you, V can't even walk. Like V can barely even walk 6 paces to push a button. They like collapse. Like
Yeah.
you're supposed to think that the relic has fucked them up this bad, and then there's an ending where just like, yeah, well, you get your body back and you live for an unknown amount of time. Like what?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like so Johnny goes and becomes part of some giant super mystical AI that's
Yeah, he joins his old girl.
plotted. It's or not even actually alt anymore. It's the leftover of alt. But it's actually again just some AI that has its own fucking plans for whatever it wants to fucking do. And then V goes back to her body, and then it's supposedly that like V gets all the credit for fucking destroying and exposing Arasaka, and so like just gets hell of like mega extra street cred and a whole bunch of money. And so now she's like achieved her goal of being like this big famous important person and like takes over the afterlife. Because Rogue's fucking dead now because reasons, in plot. And then after that, and then now she has all the fame, and then she's still just doing the same fucking thing. She's her own fixer, is all it just turns out to be. And you talk with the fucking, the Mr. Blue Eyes dude, who's just literally the fucking bad guy from Mass Effect 2 and 3, but whatever, man. And then you would
We'll
like
talk about him in a sec.
He doesn't have the benefit of being Martin Sheen.
Yeah, for real, exactly. He's fucking diet. Same thing. Fucking diet, actual cool bad guy, who just isn't who's way less racist, but that's a different point. But and so you just do that, and so you just get a job, and then you have to go to fucking space to go like steal from a casino, and it becomes like Ocean's 2077.
Except that it ends.
Yeah.
You don't
Oh,
have
and
to
then
do that.
no, before all that, you're forced to break up with your dope lesbian girlfriend, but that's different. That part I kind of hated. I mean, it made sense, but I was really fucking sad that like I had no idea what was going on, and then all of a sudden I just wake up and my lesbian girlfriend's breaking up with me. I'm about to die in 30 days, and I have to go to fucking space. I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Well, that makes. I mean, I'm assuming it's Judy.
So
Yeah.
I ended up. Who the fuck else? Well, okay, Pan Am has a fat ass, but
I think she's
anyway.
only romanceable by the male V.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I looked it up.
Oh, okay, yeah. So well, Pan Am does have a fat ass dude, but yeah.
She
So
does,
So I romance Judy, and it's like she's like she understands and knows you're gonna die. She's like, I can't stay here if I know you're not gonna be here or anything like that. And it's like I don't want to. So she's like, I'm leaving Night City and I'm gonna go do my own thing, because I have to. And then V's like, well, that makes sense.
You want to know something funny? That's the same no matter who you romance.
Yeah.
Your romance partner, just whoever it is, has that conversation and gets upset and leaves in that end.
Jesus Christ.
Unless you do, I think there's another thing where you actually go with Pan Am and the Aldecados.
Yeah, that was
that's
the ending.
That's the ending I got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you do that one, and it's actually like that one's.
No, but,
Yeah.
but if you go the glory way where V takes over their body again, no matter what, it's just whoever your partner is upset with you and leaves.
Actually, in the Pan Am ending, Judy, for me, Judy joined me.
Yeah,
on
I think
leaving
that's
Night City.
the only way you can actually have a nice ending with your romance partner.
That fucking sucks. Oh my god.
Yeah, is that because in my ending I'll just say that since V doesn't return to her body and obviously Johnny doesn't try to make amends on her behalf or whatever, so I just got an ending thing in the credits where V was just very sad, trying to leave her a message like, I don't know if something went wrong between us or if you're okay, but I would really appreciate if you could just call me and tell me what's going on. And it's just really sad because that call's never coming.
Jesus, that's really depressing. What the fuck?
Yeah, it is really
Holy
sad.
shit.
And I was like, okay, that's cool. Judy deserved way better. I should have let her leave when she was gonna.
Yeah.
I knew that was gonna happen.
Damn, I got the pretty sweet Judy ending then.
Yeah, that's the best thing about the Nomads.
Yeah, she I think she calls you, or like she leaves like a voice, like a video message on like your phone or something, like while you're preparing coffee for her, and she's just
Wow.
like, she says sweet shit. She's like, this is the best choice. Like this is, I thought I was uncertain at first, but now I think we're gonna be okay. And it's
Wow.
like, damn,
Oh,
nice. I love
Yeah,
that.
that's a very different thing.
I love that TT shit, dude.
So, I think that's a good segue to talk about maybe a little more of the side quests and their side characters. I think those were definitely way better than the main plot. So we all don't like Johnny, and it's unfortunate. But I like the side quests. I think that even though they had no bearing on the main plot, they felt much more interesting. There was better dialogue. There's better everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like River, you help this cop, and you basically just do detective work with him, which sounds generic, but it was very, I don't know, felt much more
Yeah, it's
interesting.
really you track a fucking serial killer. Like,
Yeah.
it's dope.
And you
see
like
the-
dive into his memories to help figure out what he's doing in the present and all this stuff. Like,
Yeah, like the use of the brain dance mechanic was like actually really interesting in that context.
yeah, but that's side quests. It's really unfortunate. I did want to talk also. So the romance partners, Judy, River, I think their quests are all pretty good. Carrie is one which I didn't. It's kind of weird. So that ties into the Johnny redemption arc. But if you're a masculine V, then you can romance Carrie, and you get a little more stuff there.
Yeah.
Again, it's just like unfortunate that the side quest is so much better. I think in general though, if we talk about all this cool stuff being there but not interactable, I think a lot of the actually intense kind of concepts again appear in side quests and are not really delved into as the main story because the main story is so limited in scope. Maybe not so much of the romance characters, but you did mention Mr. Blue Eyes, and that is a big one. That there's this weird individual, and maybe more of them that are messing with people's memories and like hacking into them, and we don't really know why. It's hinted at maybe that there's AIs reaching out from beyond this magical firewall, that they're trying to take over human bodies, which is crazy, and like that's why they're editing their memories to make suitable hosts and
Damn,
all this.
that actually
this-
sounds pretty cyberpunk.
That sounds fucking awesome, actually. I actually didn't manage to start the Mr. Blue Eyes quest, so I had no idea.
Yeah, and you have to dig really hard to find all that out because my direct Mr. Blue Eyes quest was just that this elected official who's running for mayor, he's having weird incidences, and then you dive into it, and it turns out that his entire house is like bugged, and then you find out that it's bugged because some mysterious person is hacking. Yeah, and it's really not well thought out, unfortunately. So you have to work really hard to piece together what I just described, and even then, it's just very, very surface level.
What the
There's
fuck?
another quest that you can do that kind of ties into the main quest because it's the girl you save from the freezer, and she's
Right.
working on secret AI that is good at doing that, at changing people's perceptions and stuff. So you kind of put two and two together that something like that is going on. But yeah, that's not the main quest. That's super optional, super hard to find out. You know, it's like
God, they're probably just planting the seeds for like the paid DLC at that
I'm
point.
guessing that casino heist is going to be the next DLC. A lot of people were theorizing. So maybe that'll be expanded upon more if the guy giving you the job is Mr. Blue Eyes, and it could very well be that they delve into that later. But I don't know. It's just frustrating that that's just a side thing.
Yeah, all this, yeah, that is way more interesting. What the fuck?
Right? That's cyberpunk as fuck. Honestly, I'm not straight up. But
Yeah, I know
no,
exactly.
no.
That's like I said. That shit. Like I said, that's my favorite part about this game is that idea. Is that the net. So the basic story of the net is that the net. It existed sort of as normal. Like it was this big, expansive, like across the world, connected everything, and there
Extremely
you do a lot of
vast.
shooting. And then there was. The word virus changed. Now it's demon. So demon is the word for virus. And then there's like
Yeah,
as AIs developed, and then basically is like there was one like super good hacker who what was the name of the demon? I forget what it was called. But it's basically he developed this specific like demon that I'm not even entirely sure exactly what it did, but it basically it like
He
it
was able to
destroyed.
destroy it for people.
It basically destroyed like everyone's like security processing or whatever and like AI restrictions were, but it made it so that anyone connected to the net was now super vulnerable and like open to be accessed by anyone and anything. And with the way the fucking world works is you could literally like hack into someone's brain and cause it to overload and kill them and do a whole bunch of stuff. And so that's where the black wall comes in, where the corporations figured out how to like basically just put up some hard fucking firewall so that nothing could get in or out, and that just created small little pocket sections that they could manage and keep safe for themselves and use. And that was sort of it. But yeah, this idea that there's like a whole bunch of uncharted like net space that sort of interacts as like a physical world when you connected to it, but not really. It's just a retexture. Like, I don't know. I thought that idea was fucking dope because there's not really
that's really fucking cool.
like there's not like, I guess it's covered in some other like cyberpunk sort of like novels, manga, videos, and other things, but not quite in that way.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of a. I mean, I guess I don't. Maybe I don't do enough reading, but I've never heard of a cyberpunk thing that explores the net in that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's always. Yeah, there's always a similar themes of like, oh, whenever you go on the net, like you better know what you're doing. You better know how to like actually fight back, or like people can kill you and take over your body and shit like that. Like that's always sort of a normal thing. But yeah, like the idea of there's just like there's literally a bunch of rampant AIs and people on the other side of that will just kill you immediately if they can fucking get into it because they don't fucking give a shit about anything else. And that you have and that really no one actually knows what's on the other side of the black wall because you can't go there because so far everyone who has gone over there has just died.
Right, and the company in charge of it is very mysterious. You don't know if they even know.
Yeah, it's implied that like they come off as that they know and they know what's best, but it's really that like no, they're just hoping to God that the AIs don't actually figure out how to get it to go across the wall, because they do, everyone's fucked.
And they hint that's we learned that's why the Voodoo Boys are interested in alt, is that, oh yeah, when the AIs bust through, we want the magical woman on our side because she can save us.
Yeah.
But yeah, all that is only barely scratched upon.
Jesus. Well, now I'm convinced that like these were the rebooted ideas and they just shoved it back into the game because maybe, I don't know, maybe they were running out of content or something.
It's hard to say, or maybe these had more bearing on the plot, and then the way it shook out is like, no, just kidding, we don't have time for that. Make that mission with the Voodoo Boys that you get Alt's help, and then she'll help you do the heist.
Just days, yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, that's a big one. I think the other one I liked was the cyberpsychosis, which is that people who have too many implants and are under a lot of mental duress, their mental fortitude breaks. They become really violent. They start lashing out at people, not realizing it, and they kind of lose their sense of self in a way, and they just become violent. Like, I don't care about anyone, I just want to destroy things. And so I thought that was interesting. It's a different take. Like, Ghost in the Shell standalone complex has that big cyber brain sclerosis issue where a lot of people just get an uncurable disease for having the implants, whereas in this one it's much more drastic, that you have violent outbursts.
Yeah.
And so there's a big quest line where you're taking out people who have had outbursts for a fixer, and she has a way of trying to help these people. So you have to try and incapacitate these people who've gone nuts, and you get these like horror movie things where you're walking up and you see guys going "Ah!" and getting sent flying across the room, and then you finally confront the person who did all of it. But that too, it doesn't really, like, it gets touched on. You don't know whether it's really reversible. You get some cases of why, and like the documented cases of what it was like as they lost their sanity, and even learn that some of the super cops used to be cyber psychos. So like, if you're just super violent, that's kind of doable if that's your job, is to kill people. So they just, give you a gun and a suit, but armor suit rather. But again, that too, even in this sort of, and I think the game gives you numbers that cases are on the rise and no one knows why. So that's like another potentially society-altering, disaster waiting to happen, and it's just background. Like, that has no bearing on anything in the main story.
Yeah, you would think like maybe in the open world, like maybe you get randomly attacked by a cyber psycho or something. Because like, hey, the
There's a
numbers are going up.
scripted quest like that.
Yeah, but
But
it's so contained
yeah.
in a scripted quest. Yeah.
And I will say that if you accidentally bump into someone, which the game interprets as an attack, then people go, Cyber Psycho! Ah! And they all go running away.
Oh my god, yeah, you're right.
It's probably my least favorite bug. I forgot to mention that earlier, but I failed some quests because it counted at me as attacking people when I bumped into them.
What the fuck?
That was not fun. So yeah, it's like yeah, and that's I think it's notable. Like everyone is scared of them, right? So you do anything crazy in public, and that's what comes to mind. But so yeah, kind of with this, is it because you're not human anymore that your body can't handle it, and you just want to kill other people who aren't made of metal like you? And like, I don't know, and it's just not solved. It's just side quest that it gives you an excuse for random people to be very strong bosses for you to fight. I don't know if you guys ran into this, but towards the end of the game, all the cyber psychos I found had powered exoskeletons, even if it made no sense for the story, and so they were just extremely hard to kill.
I actually didn't end up finishing the cyber psycho quest, so I don't know.
Maybe I just ran into them and I got unlucky. I didn't finish them either, but because of that, I did 3 in a row and they had this skeleton, and I was just like,
oh,
no thanks.
I got one, and I thought that was a unique one.
Yeah, I got one too.
Because I remember I was in the middle of some area, and it was just like in a construction yard, and like I remember like around a corner, and you just see like 3 bodies just like get flung across the room, and you hear something like machine sounds, and the guy just like, Arr! And then you come over, and and he just got like this giant like construction like alien-esque like robot exosuit, and I just shoot him in the face twice, and then he falls asleep apparently.
I was still trying to do because I didn't have the mod, so it took longer for me to do those. But there was one where he was like coming off a convoy, and there was no description in the intel like why there would be a powered exoskeleton, but there it was. I don't know. Anyway, so the cyber psychosis, another kind of cool concept. I think not really well explored, unfortunately. In the last one, I think we all encountered this. There is a very spicy sub-quest and a set of sub-quests involving a prisoner on death row who has found religion. And the bottom line is that he's supposed to be killed, but rather than die, he wants to have his brain recorded, and they're going to make a video about this guy dying on the cross. He wants to be crucified instead of executed. And this was like obviously very rich and just a lot going on in that quest, but I felt like it was just really sloppily handled. For one, the way you get the quest is you accompany this guy who wants to kill the prisoner, and then that goes horribly, and then the prisoner just decides he likes you and takes you along for the ride. It's like the stupidest way to get involved with this guy. And I don't even know. I thought it would explore kind of like what is religion like in this society where people don't have a lot of hope, and so maybe it's really popular. But there was none of that. It was just like, maybe is it about the morals of should this guy, he was a murderer, a gangster? Do we believe his redemption? It's just none of that. It's just a lot of weird things like negotiating with the agent making the movie, and like somehow you just have to talk to him a lot, and then depending on how much you help him, the movie is successful or not. It's really ridiculous. And maybe to I want to hear from your guys' take, because I know you both ran into it, but I just want to note, you really want a game where your choices don't really matter. You can choose to be the one to fucking nail this guy to a cross and slowly drive stakes into his hands and feet. It does nothing, whether you choose to help him or not.
You can, like, it shows you doing that. Like,
yeah, you can choose to be the one who crucifies him.
That is fucked up, dude.
And you can, I guess I was supportive enough that the movie was successful for me, but I straight up said no. There's no way I'm doing that. And so you watch someone else do it to him violently. And that just didn't fucking matter whether I was the one driving the nails in him or not. It's super gore. Like, I mean, this is a game where I'm like shooting people in the face and they're blowing into chunks, but like it made me a little pretty uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah,
and you can do it yourself.
Just hearing that, just hearing Like I didn't finish the quest, but just hearing that, it's just really uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. So this is a game where literally you can choose to help crucify someone, and it doesn't change the outcome of the quest. Like that is crazy.
Yeah, for me, when I encountered the quest, like it just felt so. I didn't end up finishing it because I just got fed up with it. Because in the beginning, like you know, the guy, your quest giver gets shot, immediately, and then you just kind of get dragged along for the ride, and I felt like V, like my V, I guess, would just like not want anything to do with it, like it's just this
It's a
like
valid
super
response. The game gives you that option.
yeah, like it's a super sketchy fucking like start to a quest. Like there's no, you get no details at all. You just get dragged along. And so like I was like, okay, I'll just go along with it and like just for content's sake. But eventually I got fed up with it. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like my V like just would be like all the responses that I'm giving is just like it's just so fucking paper thin that like it just makes no sense. So I just didn't do the quest because
Yeah.
it just didn't feel it didn't feel right. Like there was no proper motivation to actually continue it.
The foundation is really
I-
shaky. I agree.
I fucking noped out of it. I got the quest. I was like, "Oh, the guy died. Wait, what? Wait, wait. Why are the cops talking to me? Why is there a prisoner? Why is the prisoner giving commands? Why am I in the back of this cop car with this fucking prisoner and his fucking secretary? Why are we going to this house? Why is the motherfucking prisoner talking to the daughter of, or excuse me, the widow of the husband that he fucking killed? Why are they like buddy? Why are they in a fucking religious cult to each other? The mom showed up and just told us to get the fuck out. And he tried to convert her into the religion. I'm fucking out of this. I was like, nope, y'all can go fucking die on your own hands. I don't want to do this shit. And I was like, this is fucked up. I knew that from the beginning, and I noped the fuck out of that quest.
I
Yeah,
was just too curious, dude. I was like, this is really dumb, but I want to know where this ends.
And that's like that's like the main failing with that quest. It's like because you can have sort of like an unclear setup and like make it interesting, but like this just wasn't interesting.
It's really shaky. Yeah, it's just kind of shocking, I think, is the bottom line. That quest is very shocking without doing anything with much finesse or thought. I can just to outline it for listeners. Yeah, so that is the first destination. Is this prisoner's like, I want someone to talk to. Why don't you stay here, V? You can choose to get out, but you can stay. And then yeah, he's through his redemption, he made best friends with, is it the widow or sister of someone he killed in his gang life? And then he hoped that the mom would have the same approach and that, will you forgive me too, please? I found God and I'm gonna die for my sins now. And she's just like, hell no, get away.
A very valid response, to the
Right.
mur-
And so
to, like,
I thought the
murder
game
of
was
your-
sorry, but exactly that. It's like
Yeah,
who
go
wouldn't
ahead.
sympathize with her? And I thought the game was gonna kind of go into that. Then it's like I thought it was maybe gonna do. I feel like it'd be pretty cyberpunk to be very anti-religious. I don't want to place a lot of labels on cyberpunk, but it just I was hoping the game would be like, yeah, that's pretty BS. That just because you prayed and asked for forgiveness, that you think it's fine that you ruined this woman's life.
Yeah.
But it didn't really happen. Dead ass, you go to a pizza place and have dinner, and then there's just some awkward conversations there about whether or not, like, you learn more about the secretary, that she's actually with the company producing the movie. She tries to buy you out. Like, I don't know why you're staying here, but if I give you a bunch of money right now, will you leave? Because I feel like if he talks to you too much, he's going to have doubts and give up on this. And then that's it. And then the next quest is just later on. If you, I guess, said the right things, then during the filming, she calls you up like, he's freaking out. I don't think he's going to do it. We're having a serious issue here with him. Can you come? He asked for you specifically.
Oh
And
my
then you
God.
get one last chat with him before the crucifixion. You find out that people have been protesting it. And then that's it. And then depending on how everything up to that point, you get a call from the secretary, and she either says, we made a fuck ton of money. That was great. Thank you so much. Or no one liked it. It sucked. And that's it.
That is like the least cyberpunky thing. Like it feels like the least cyberpunky thing in the whole game, except for the
Yeah,
last
at
bit
the end
where
of the
you
day,
make, where you make money off of his brain dance.
I guess that's what made. That's the only thing. That's a good point, and that's a thought I had. The only thing that makes it cyberpunk is that the movie they're making about his death is a brain dance where you're inside his mind as he's crucified, and that's it. And so it's a little. It's like disgustingly intimate to his death.
Yeah.
But they don't even, and that's the bottom line is like, do you as a player, do you think that's cool? Yes, no. And it's essentially what it asks you several times.
Do you think
so it's not even diving
crucifixions
into
are
the religious.
dope?
What's that?
Well, do you think crucifixions are dope? Like, what the fuck kind of question is?
So yeah. So again, touching on some potentially very thought-provoking and just upsetting and deep topics, but not really getting there. And so the last thing before we say goodbye, and hopefully I think a lot of us could stand to not think about this game for some time, get it out of our system. I really want to talk about what this means moving forward, I guess, for not just this game, but just, AAA titles like this in general, right? So we had this game that was so hyped up that all this happened. What happens the next time a big title runs into this much hype? Right? Like if we get another 2018 with a new title that all of us think is the greatest thing, like what?
Yeah.
The landscape is inevitably changed for better or worse because of this game. So what do we think is going to happen now with more cyberpunk tier big games coming out?
I mean, personally, I don't. Maybe it's being a little cynical, but I feel like not much is really gonna change, like, because it really, I think, ends up being I guess not. I don't want to put the blame on like the consumer or anything, but like as long as people, stop making bad consumer choices, like these games will. Like the I guess the what am I trying to get at here? Like the big overhype, like the marketing and all that stuff, like if people just make better consumer choices, like their companies won't be incentivized to like basically lie to people.
No, it's a good point. I think that's a pretty valid takeaway, is that the industry won't change, but people should. Like people should know not to buy into the hype. Like,
yeah, and
I'll admit it was a mistake pre-ordering that shit. I definitely won't the next time, and maybe no one else should.
Yeah, it's like, but at the same time, it's like it's like it's definitely CDPR's fault for just making all these ridiculous claims that, I mean, at the time didn't seem ridiculous, but now in hindsight, it's like they basically lied through their fucking teeth for like several years.
A lot of the stuff that they said was going to be in the game doesn't exist.
And so I guess overall, what I think, like it really just says like these big, huge, like open world games with like multiple fucking like hundreds of hours of gameplay and like tons of side quests and shit are like, it's just not a sustainable kind of like genre, I guess, or like way to make games. Cause honestly, at this point, I guess in my life, it's like, it's so tiring to play these giant games now with like millions of meaningless side quests
Big
or like
scope,
side
but
stuff.
not much else. Yeah.
Yeah.
An interesting thought. That's an interesting takeaway that we tried to make a really epic open world game and it's not worth it.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, you see this over and over with like things like the Assassin's Creed series at this point becoming just like, and like Far Cry, and just becoming like these, you just go to like these giant massive worlds and like they're touting like, oh my god, dude, this big massive world you can explore fucking everywhere, and it's like empty, and even with games like GTA and like Red Dead, who are like supposedly the kings of open world games, it's like ultimately like there's not much you can do in these worlds, to be honest. I guess maybe like Red Dead is like it's you just kind of explore and like look at stuff basically, and it looks really pretty.
Was good at. That's what we enjoyed, was looking at stuff.
Yeah, like looking at stuff. And I don't know. I don't want like.
Well, I think it's a fair assessment. Share, yeah. It's hard to pull off. Like,
yeah,
yeah, the
exactly.
technical scope is good, but to make that a meaningful game all the way through is really hard.
Yeah, and it's like, and the fucking. Dude, did we even talk about crunch?
Oh, not really.
I just realized we didn't
But
really talk about crunch.
that
but
was part of the development, is that they crunched. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of unfortunate. They said they were different. They wouldn't crunch. They crunched. That's the
they
bottom
crunched.
line.
They
Yeah,
crunched really
they're-
fucking
I
hard.
don't think there's much.
Yeah, no, they're
we
no
mentioned earlier
different than
about
anyone
this.
really else. Which again is to no surprise to anyone.
Yeah,
But I know. I don't know. There's there's a lot. I know I have a lot of thoughts on these, and I don't know. It's kind of hard because I'm not again really an industry expert or anything for a lot of this. But it's
You're a
like,
consumer, you have a valid opinion.
yeah, but like touching on like what you said earlier was like that. Yeah, again, it mostly comes down to like consumer basically. It's like, yeah, if we just stop buying into the bullshit, eventually the companies are gonna realize, okay, we have to actually do something to actually make product. But I also part of think of it like it's like kind of the way the system is organized is really rigged against that.
yeah,
'Cause-
yeah. No, that for sure.
Like because you get like it's technically, if you look at it the way everything is there's no reason for a company to actually have to give you an actually good product. They only have to hype something up so that you would want it enough to actually buy it, and then it just has to be functional enough that it counts as a game and it counts as technically fulfilling the promise,
Yeah,
and then they're done. Any other expectations or wants that you would have had of it, like, don't have to be met. You don't have to actually like it or anything. It's like, no, it just has to function, and you just have to buy it, and it just has to basically fulfill legal requirements, and then they're done. And that really just sets the bar super low.
But I think that's the point that Peanuts is making, is like, then if they're not going to deliver, then don't buy,
Well,
That's
but then,
the thing that-
how do you know if they're not going to deliver?
then
Like, it
don't
gets
pre-order. Wait till people come out and make,
Well,
that-
and then, that's
that-
the point I'm getting at, is that pre-orders or no, it's like people still got to buy the game to play it. And then if
Yeah.
if at that point you're waiting where, okay, well, the only way you're going to know if a game is not is you have to wait for other people to go into it. Now it comes back into these fucking like game reviews and doing everything like that, where this game had what, fucking 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, all these super high reviews, even though they all had fucking copies that were buggy as shit, barely
Yeah.
didn't run. But for whatever reasons, quote unquote, I'm not going to get into that sort of, they still gave it a high rating and said everyone should buy it, and then it's the best fucking game of the year.
I do want to note, though, that the user reviews are incredibly negative, and understandably so. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
it's
they're
not like
being.
all the reviews were positive. There are a lot of people who felt the way we did, just maybe not in the articles we saw, in the first.
Yeah. But it's the professional ones doing the reviews,
Yeah.
giving their opinions and things like that. They're way more influenced and have different things online versus a regular user can
Yeah,
give the
yeah.
honest, straightforward opinion because they're not going to receive any backlash.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, but I still think there's a lot of freedom for someone who wants to play the game to wait a long time. I think the bottom line is that Cyberpunk did sell a lot because of the hype, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that people should at least be more wary. I think that's a very good takeaway, is that, yeah, the current system is dangerous. It's like it encourages a game like this where you just talk hella big. You talk big enough to sell enough copies, and then whether they enjoy the experience afterwards or not, it doesn't matter because you sold it. You're totally right that the system is set up in a way that encourages that, and that we shouldn't, maybe it's not a big surprise that this is the outcome, is titles like this that
Yeah.
are all hype, all pizzazz with no substance. So,
Yeah.
I think that is a good takeaway, though, that the cynicism and the care from the consumer side is really important.
And then, yeah, so it's just hard to that. And then, yeah, it's again it can be solved by on the consumer end, but that's really fucking hard because that's a
It is.
big
yeah,
that's a big like mental mind frame culture thing and like understanding. And again, there's a lot of people out there where it's like they have a lot of free time and people just go through fucking games quick and they play them a lot and they're fucking itching for whatever the next like thing to come out was. I mean, shit, we see that in our own like fucking Soul Calibur waiting for DLC to come out where there's just like a bunch of people who play this game who really just want the next character to come out so they can oogle at it for like 2 weeks, call it broken, and then move on.
Yeah,
and
and-
it's yeah. And there's
I want-
there's another one more thing, but you go real quick.
Okay, I want to say on the flip side of that is like people who like have no time to really invest themselves in like video games as much as like we do, I guess. And they just like look at the big magazine journalist like scores, and they're like, okay, this is a good game. I'll just play it and like buy it, and like, obviously they don't have enough time to really explore like the news surrounding that particular game and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. It's not fair maybe to expect them to do a lot of research, but it's like, I guess the point we're making is that it's probably better to make that effort if you're gonna buy it at all.
Yeah, because it's like, oh man, it's like 60 fucking bucks, man. Like
Yeah.
it's like what, like that's groceries for like a
Yeah.
day,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
what
then
was the
I-
point you wanted to make, Ben?
Oh, is so again, more referencing back to the other things we talked about is, I think, is also just the viability of just companies being able to produce product, and just the way that the system works for producing a lot of these games, especially for bigger and more AAA studios, is I mean, time and money are king. That's what's really the driving force for all of this, is they have to make a certain amount of money in a certain amount of time, or get things done within a certain amount of time, or in all the profit and the numbers and everything sort of get off. So it's for a company to be able to like consistently put out a really high quality product without like sacrificing these things, and being able to do it in time, or again keep their directors online and not like have to make all the devs crunch and all this. It's realistically and logistically right now, like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Like we saw, like this is like the biggest case in point of that. There's just so much promise, and this had so much potential, but there's just like, unless everything goes like super smoothly, perfectly, and like they're just given like a whole bunch of extra money, and well, even though this fucking company was given $7 million, even with fucking that, they still couldn't really deliver that well.
Yeah.
So it's like how the fuck are companies gonna be able to make it work under the current system?
I mean, I think it's been said over and over again, just like the state of the AAA market, and that it's like, it's just not, these giant AAA games just aren't sustainable anymore, or like they're like eventually, like right now they're just not sustainable. Like, like if, I guess in a perfect world, like, it would be better if people just, if companies just made smaller games, I guess. And it's like, that's why
Yeah.
there's a lot of hope in like the indie market, where it's like, you have like a game like Hades, and their company, it's like a super small company, or like, yeah, super small team, like a pretty small game, but like they don't get crunched at all. They don't, like reportedly they, yeah, no, I think they came out and said like they forced their employees to have vacation
Time,
days.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think the first policy they did was like, there's unlimited, you guys get unlimited vacation days, but the people, yeah, they didn't use them. Like they eventually just worked themselves to a crunch, and so they had to force force vacation days, and it's like, and that game is fucking amazing. Like, holy shit, like Hades is like a legit 10 out of 10. And I think it's mainly because it's like, it's just a smaller game with like way more focus, and it's like, compared to like Cyberpunk and like Red Dead, Last of Us 2, where it's like these giant games that like, that just, they put so much fucking work
Change the
into.
world,
Yeah, and it's like, and you put so many, you just get so much sacrifice, like getting to that, or just making that game, and it's just not worth it.
I think it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's a good point that this whole ecosystem is just gonna make more cyberpunk like games. Maybe in a way that's a very meta cyberpunk takeaway, is you need to dismantle the big games and spread out and give power back to the
Yeah.
consumer. Oh man, but yeah, it's a good point. It's kind of I'm trying to think like what else is on the horizon that would be Cyberpunk-esque in scope, and nothing comes to mind. But I think it's a good point as we move into the new generation of consoles and stuff. Like, yeah, it might be.
Like maybe like GTA 6 or some shit. I don't know. Like,
the new Mass Effect maybe that they hinted
yeah,
at.
maybe Dragon Age 4 now?
Or they
right?
did hint at a new Dragon Age as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to not hold our breath on those. I mean,
But at least both of those, again, those have like more precedent and like prior relation to them, because
Yeah.
as far as I'm fucking concerned, the last two games in each of those franchises were complete and utter fucking dog shit. So I am going to be extremely cautious of both those new games coming out. That being said, I am
Yeah.
kind of hyped for HD re-release of the Mass Effect games. I definitely got my eye on those.
so good. Oh man, yeah. I mean, I think I'm the same way as Dragon Age. It fell off a cliff. Like Dragon Age Origins is one of my favorite games still of all time, and then 2 was kind of oh boy, and then I didn't even. I barely even played Inquisition. I couldn't get.
Oh man, Inquisition it's not good.
That's crazy to think, but yeah, I guess we just have to keep an eye out for whatever comes. Last point I think we can look at, and I don't want to delve into this too much because we've already gone into it, but you know, this game is still early in its life cycle. It's unfortunate that after all this, you know, that there's all this post-release stuff. So we're gonna get big patches, as we saw that roadmap. Just real quick, maybe from each of you, what do you think the lasting legacy of this game will be once in 3 years, once all the DLC and stuff is out?
You can go first.
I guess I mean the same shit happened with fucking Witcher 3. I mean, not as nearly as bad, but it's kind of the same story. The game came out, was not really in a very good play state. It could play all the way through, and you could beat it without like destroying your computer device, but it was pretty fucking bad. And then over time, they released a whole bunch of patches and updates. They changed some things, and they made the overall experience way better until finally now the game is actually in a pretty good play state overall. That's not perfect, but is pretty fucking fine. So the potential for them to get to that place with this game is there, and there can be some DLC they can add to it. But honestly, I think overall, I think it's just gonna be too little, too late. I think they totally fucking dropped the ball on this. And again, especially with the fact that they've been getting out all the refunds and everything else, that like, yeah, maybe later down the line they might be able to sort of make it up a little bit, but I don't know. I guess it's kind of, it could go either way. I think the game will sort of stabilize a little bit, but it's never going to be anywhere near what was sort of expected or promised or what it could be.
Yeah, my thoughts are pretty much the same. In comparison with Witcher 3, it's like, yeah, it had rough launch and all that stuff. And I just don't think that this game is gonna get like the delayed reception that Witcher 3 got. I mean, even Witcher 3, like when it came out, like even with the bugs, like it was a really good game. Like people really liked it. But with this one, it's like with Cyberpunk, it's like, yeah, like the even no matter what they can fix and like add on, like the base game itself is like, it's just so fundamentally like broken. Like all the writing and stuff and the quest design and all that stuff. You can't patch that out. Like we've said this before off podcast, I guess, but yeah, it's just not fixable. So, and I think that it's gonna be really hard for CDPR to get that, like, get back to that level of like consumer trust that they got from Witcher 3. And yeah, at this point, it's like whatever next game they make, it's like it's definitely not gonna be like, people are generally, thankfully, probably gonna be a lot more cautious.
Yeah, they can't. If they try to make a title of this scope again, it's going to be very different.
Yeah.
I think that's for sure. I think for me, unfortunately, I think that people are going to forget a lot of the issues with the game. a lot of the bugs and stuff. I think similar to The Witcher, it's gonna kind of be water under the bridge. I think that we've seen that with some of the older games, like Fallout comes to mind too, where it barely worked on release and then everyone forgot about it. And I honestly think that a lot of the gripes that we have about the plot being shallow and about the cyberpunk not being element not being well executed, from some of the discussion I've seen, if you're not familiar with the genre and if you really just wanted to run around and shoot people, this was still a very, very fun game for a lot of people, which is valid. But
Yeah.
I think that helps people kind of turn a blind eye to kind of how much they underdelivered. So I agree that their reputation is going to be hurt. If I had to pick, though, I think it will kind of balance out to a sort of mediocre thing in a few years.
Yeah.
People play all the DLC and will play the patch version. And they'll be like, yeah, it was I kind of like that game.
Yeah.
And that's valid, but it is unfortunate because I agree that the better they make out of this game, that the worse it means in the long term. They got off some seemingly scot-free for under-delivering so hard after all the crunch and all the failed promises. So
Yeah. I mean,
we'll have to see.
I think, I don't know, I think compared to, once again, comparing to Witcher 3, like the lead up to that game was like, they only had Witcher 1 and 2, which were perfectly fine games, and no one had like wild expectations of what CDPR was like capable of. So I think, I don't know, I think it will eventually level out, but it'll take definitely a lot longer for people to like really let this down.
Yeah, that'd be great. I hope so. I honestly hope so.
Yeah, I guess compared to yours, mine's a little more optimistic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm happy to be wrong. I honestly, like, for me, I'd be thrilled if everyone's like, shares in some of our cynicism and disappointment, because I think
Yeah.
I think that like, it's well deserved, and I'm happy. Not that I don't want, I don't want everyone to buy this game to be miserable, but
Yeah.
I think that there's just good reason to be disappointed, and I would hope that there's real consequences for that. I mean, but yeah, so we should wrap it up and think about games and play games that we enjoy more. So we will call it for today. Maybe we'll come back to another title or other topic. I mean, we'll decide. This was sort of spur of the moment. If you listened this far, thank you so much for tuning in. And you'll be seeing this, I think, on SoundCloud. So keep an eye out. Pluggables. You guys want to plug your social media and stuff? If you cared about all the silly things we said and what else do we do in the day-to-day? I guess I'll start. So you can find me. It is at uwucos. That's uwu like the face and cause like cosplay, COS. You can find me tweeting about VTubers a lot, and I guess I also like music and Soul Calibur and other things, cooking. But yeah, if you don't mind seeing whatever nonsense I retweet, you can follow me there. And I don't really use other social media platforms right now. You can find my old cosplay pictures on Instagram, but there's not a lot there.
You can find me at peanuts_2005. I'm the same. A lot of VTuber content, a lot of art. I really like art. And
All of us, we're deep in the rabbit hole here on this podcast.
Yeah. Fuck it, dude. Next episode, VTuber. Just a VTuber episode. Just 3 hours of us talking about VTubers.
Let's do it, dude. I'm down.
Yeah, I'm fucking down. I'm always down to talk about VTubers. Are you kidding me?
We're doing it right now.
Yeah, honestly, we could have just started this entire podcast with, man, Cyberpunk fucking sucks. Anyways, let's talk about VTubers. And we would have had a way more grand spanking time, but yeah, anyways, that's my Twitter handle. I retweet a lot of politics stuff too, so I guess word of warning. I also don't really use any other social media. I don't know. Find me on LinkedIn. I need a job. That'd be pretty dope.
There you go.
Don't find me on LinkedIn. I don't have a LinkedIn profile. Okay, that was a dumb joke. Anyways, pass it on to Big Papa.
Yeah. I'm Bigpapachunk, literally fucking everywhere, and Hololive is fucking lit. And I don't give a fuck. That's about it.
6. Play Soul Calibur 6. Come find us on Twitter and join his online tournaments.
Well, I guess to be completely accurate, I really don't play that game that often.
Yeah,
I mostly just stream it.
You stream it. You're the tournament organizer.
Yeah, if you're interested in getting into Soul Calibur 6, whether or not you're in the Northern California area or not, you can bug me, and I can probably put you in contact with someone who can help you in your area, or I can just do it my fucking self. I don't fucking know, but anyway, yeah, I don't know. I do some
Talk
shit.
about that next
Oh, man.
because Peanuts, you're getting into Soul Calibur 6 as well. So.
Yeah, I am.
All right.
God,
so
you know what? This is
plenty of
hold on.
topics.
This is a segue straight into our VTuber / Soul Calibur podcast episode. Reintroductions again after 3 hours. In case you guys forgot us.
Yeah, but for now, we'll go ahead and sign off. I don't know. We'll put a funny audio clip or something so that you know it's over if you fell asleep. Alrighty. Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Peace. Or should I? Well, if I do it more like her, it's just gonna hurt, and it's also late, so I'm not going to.
I was going to turn on the Big Crusher, and I was like, I don't want to be